Chapter 491. It took this emperor hundreds of millions of years to bring out these powerful people. But just now, you killed all of them and even killed this emperor's guardian beast. You deserve to die. Suddenly, an ancient and oppressive low voice sounded in this chaotic Star Island domain. This voice was untraceable, but it also seemed to be everywhere. It sounded clearly in everyone's mind, causing them to feel a chill down their spine. Who's talking? The immortal kings were shocked. They released their divine senses to the maximum, but they couldn't detect anything. Then, they all looked in the direction of the city, their expressions becoming more and more solemn and vigilant. You don't have the qualifications to say such words to me. Chu Bei was silent. He only looked forward with an incomparably calm gaze. How dare you? 2 cold syllables echoed. That voice was too terrifying. The next moment, under the gazes of countless immortal kings, a blurry figure appeared above the city. Although they couldn't see the appearance of this figure clearly, it gave them the feeling of a peerless emperor looking directly at it. He floated above the city and swept his cold gaze across the group of immortal kings. The aura he unintentionally released caused them to tremble. It was as if the soul of an existence as strong as an immortal king would be turned to dust with a single thought. Is he the emperor that those creatures of darkness are talking about? It must be him. Is he the owner of this city? Could it be that the source of the dark matter is in this city? The group of immortal kings guessed the origin of that blurry figure, and fear appeared on their faces. They all retreated into the distance immediately. As for Chu Bei, he was still calm when he met the gaze of the Dark Emperor. His purple robe fluttered, and an invincible aura that looked down on all eternity flowed. Do you see that ball of flame? He was a quasi-immortal emperor like us and crossed the sea from the age of Emperor Collapse. What's laughable is that he actually threatened to suppress the source of the darkness and was stubborn, so he died. The blurry figure above the city spoke in a cold voice. You are the same as him. You are destined to die here. What? That being who crossed the sea in the age of Emperor Collapse? Could it be that he's the quasi-immortal emperor who left the first set of footprints on the dam? As expected, he really died. Could it be that Senior will also have the same ending? Hearing the blurry figure's words, the group of immortal kings looked at the human-shaped flame. At the same time, their eyes were filled with respect and pity. In order to quell the chaos of darkness, this quasi-immortal emperor had set out on his own, but in the end, he had fallen. You're saying that I'm a quasi-immortal emperor like you? Chu Bei smiled. Then, he glanced at the blurry figure above the city and said, Ask them to come out as well. It saves me the trouble of killing them one by one. After saying that, the golden disc returned to Chu Bei's back and released a blinding golden light, instantly illuminating the entire chaotic Star Island domain. The sinister black fog disappeared, making it look extremely holy. Them? Could it be that the darkness creatures have more than one emperor? When they heard Chu Bei's words, all the immortal kings were stunned, and then they glanced at each other with surprise. You think too highly of yourself. Above the city, the blurry figure grunted coldly, and it carried killing intent. As soon as he shouted coldly, boundless dark symbols surged from his body. After that, an enormous black palm that was almost shriveled up swiftly and heavily slapped towards Chu Bei, and it carried the monstrous might of an emperor. If one looked carefully, there were actually stars revolving within the terrifying palm. Rivers of stars surged, a region of stars opened up, and chaos coiled around it. There was even a path of reincarnation that was faintly discernible. Chu Bei smiled and was fearless. His purple clothes fluttered, and he clenched his fist and smashed it out. His fist didn't look large, but it emanated gorgeous light and supreme energy interweaved. It was like the creation of the world, and it carried boundless might of an emperor. Bang! A world-shocking collision caused the entire chaotic Star Island to wail and tremble. The path of darkness collapsed completely, and the sky cracked apart, forming a boundless storm of darkness. Terrifying collision shockwaves rippled outwards. In that city that had existed for millions and millions of years, ancient palaces collapsed one after another, giant rocks flying everywhere, thick pillars breaking apart, darkness, immortal gold tiles shattering, scattering in all directions. Even though this city was protected by a supreme emperor formation, it still couldn't escape the fate of collapsing into ruins and floating in the sea. The first clash between two supreme experts that carried the aura of emperors shook the entire Tianyu realm sea. Is this a battle of emperors? The hearts of all the immortal kings palpitated, especially the experts who were watching the battle from the other space-time. The river of time beneath their feet seemed to have been cut off. My name is Emperor Tsang. A low and hoarse voice rang out. The blurry figure took a step forward and stomped down heavily. The surging black fog in the surroundings dispersed. His figure couldn't be considered tall and sturdy, and could even be described as skinny. His blood-red eyes were like two red lights, or it could be said that they were more like two red lanterns on the path of death, incomparably terrifying. His sharp gaze was enough to tear apart immortal kings. The emperor clothes he wore were old and ancient. When worn on his bony figure, they seemed loose and plump. On his head, there was an emperor crown that flowed with 9-colored brilliance. There was a faint black energy flow that curled about, strange and terrifying. Chu Bei indifferently glanced at Emperor Tsang. His body didn't move, his black hair fluttering about, his eyes becoming increasingly fierce. What a pity, lamentable, lamentable! Emperor Tsang shook his head, his sigh fading. With a dang-lang sound, a black bone club that was shining appeared in his hand. This was a half-immortal emperor-level weapon. The end of the club had the manifestation of a star domain, smashing towards Chu Bei. Chu Bei's expression still didn't change at all, calm and collected. With a wave of his right hand, the surrounding supreme power formed a thin sword. Resplendent sword radiance illuminated this primal chaos realm sea, especially dazzling. Chu Bei held the sword in his hand, divine radiance flowing about, as if an immortal emperor had descended into the world of mortals, possessing an unmatched aura. A sword brandished out, facing Emperor Tsang. Hong! The two collided, erupting with mysterious symbols, hacking apart the sky dome, severing the long river of time, turning this instant into eternity. After millions and millions of years, I finally encountered someone who can make me attack to my heart's content. However, what a pity, your ending is destined to be the same as his. Emperor Tsang looked coldly at Chu Bei, at the same time pointing at that flame, saying this. Nothing more than an ant. Chu Bei's lips carried a smile, his expression calm and composed. Truly arrogant. Emperor Tsang released a cold snort. He opened his mouth, spitting out a 9-colored pagoda. It quickly enlarged, suppressing towards Chu Bei. The scene was terrifying, carrying the power of time, swirling about with supreme power of natural laws, blasting forward. 111. Chu Bei didn't reply, only the golden disk behind him trembled. The mouth of the bowl turned into a pool of laws producing all things, the laws of the heavens appearing, protecting Chu Bei, making him impervious to all methods. The 9-colored pagoda smashed down. The golden disk met it head-on, surging with immeasurable immortal emperor power, blasting the former aside. Hong Long Long! A true great battle was about to erupt. Emperor Tsang and Chu Bei's hands continuously formed supreme seals, attacking each other. This was a battle between emperors. The spectating immortal kings continuously pulled apart the distance. Even though they were supreme experts themselves, they still couldn't block the might of the aftershocks. Gradually, this chaotic star island domain became chaotic. The two figures opened up their own battlefield, weaving about in the long river of time, fighting fiercely. Kill! Above the chaotic realm sea, the two figures continuously changed, opening up brand new worlds one after another. This terrifying and intense battle went on for who knew how long. The two figures broke through the primal chaos, collapsing the sky dome, even the realm sea sinking. Pooh! Finally, the space between Emperor Tsang's brows exploded, pierced through by the thin sword in Chu Bei's hand. The tip of the sword released resplendent light that illuminated the past, present, and future, peerless. That Emperor of the creatures of darkness is bleeding. Senior Chu has the advantage. In that case, Senior really might be able to eradicate the source of darkness. It's extremely difficult to kill even people of our cultivation realm, let alone those high and mighty emperors. Speaking of which, from the looks of it, although that emperor of the creatures of darkness is bleeding, it's probably impossible for Senior Chu to kill him. The butcher, the ancient immortal king, and the other experts from the other space-time were shocked. They looked at Chu Bei with even more respect. I've lost! Emperor Tsing's injuries instantly healed. He looked at Chu Bei in a daze, and then laughed somewhat crazily. You're very strong, you shouldn't have come now. Perhaps after a period of seclusion, you might really be able to suppress this place. How long are you going to watch from the sidelines? With that, Emperor Tsang turned his head and looked behind him. His eyes narrowed, and a beam of light shot into the depths of the sea. Be careful! At this moment, a weak voice sounded in the minds of all the cultivators in this sea region. It's that quasi-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse. Could it be that he's not completely dead yet? Billions of years have passed, but that quasi-immortal emperor still retains his divine sense. What exactly did he experience back then? The butcher, the chicken farmer, and the other immortal kings all looked at the human-shaped flame on the island. At some point, an illusory face had actually appeared in that human-shaped flame, as if it would dissipate at any moment. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Amidst the rumbling, a purple-gold path appeared at the end of the chaotic Star Island domain, rumbling. All kinds of avatars appeared around it. There were golden lotuses circling around it, and divine birds flying in the air. Under the gazes of all the immortal kings, a living being walked over on the path. He wore a purple-gold crown and had a tall figure. All kinds of seals surrounded him, and the oppressive aura he released with each step was suffocating. This was a quasi-immortal emperor weaker than Emperor Tsang, and he had descended on the battlefield just like that. There's more than one emperor of the creatures of darkness? Looking at the newly appeared being wearing a purple-gold crown, the immortal kings gasped and instinctively retreated into the distance. Chapter 492. Grey Emperor, I already don't remember how many great eras have passed, yet I still haven't seen you suffer a single defeat. In Realm C, the purple-crowned creature spoke, his voice rumbling, accompanied by the power of time, as if it came from millions and millions of years ago. Grand Emperor, why don't you try fighting him alone? Grey Emperor sneered, his face carrying displeasure. Grand Emperor was also at the third-level half-immortal Emperor realm. Purple energy overflowed into the heavens, great Tao symbols interweaving as his eyes swirled about. His aura wasn't weaker than Grey Emperor's in the slightest. The aura from his mouth and nose naturally swirled about, making the Star River realm see crack apart. Sleeping through the endless ages, are you someone who came later, or were you born when primal chaos first opened like us? Grand Emperor looked towards Chu Bei, incomparably calm. Chu Bei calmly looked at Grand Emperor, a smile on the corners of his lips, not saying anything. Just like that person, you don't understand heaven's mysteries, stubbornly clinging to your own course. I can only send you on your way. Just like Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor also reached out a finger, pointing at the half-immortal spirit that turned into flames, his eyes cold. Feather Emperor, stop sleeping. Let's take action together to avoid any accidents. Grand Emperor looked in another direction. Purple energy surged for millions and millions of li, as if it surrounded the entire realm sea. Disturbing my sleep, you deserve death! As Grand Emperor's voice sounded, in the northern limits, a low voice sounded, shaking up heaven and earth. Then, a wave of powerful killing energy surged. Blazing radiance filled the heavens, divine and resplendent, illuminating the endless ages. Emperor Might appeared. Another peerless being was born. They only saw a dazzling ancient war chariot that swirled with brilliance, suppressing heaven and earth. The war chariot rumbled with noise. 9 ancient beasts rushed over, appearing at Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor's side. These 9 ancient beasts all released endless might, every single one of their horns sinister, scales thick. They looked like true dragons, but they also weren't, belonging to a desolate ancient race that had never been seen before. Hong! Following an explosive noise, the war chariot exploded, turning into a divine rain of light that pervaded the air. This was a creature with divine wings on its back, similarly a half-immortal emperor. Three darkness emperors! No wonder that Emperor Great One from the age of Emperor Collapse would nurse a grievance here. The creatures of darkness have 3 great emperors, how could he face them all? That's right. Those who can cultivate to this level are all the strongest experts of their epoch. Who would be weaker than another? Even though Senior defeated Emperor Tseng just now, the creatures of darkness have 3 emperors on their side. He's in a bad situation. Looking at the 3 half-immortal emperors of the darkness creatures, the group of ancient immortal kings' expressions were incomparably ugly, extremely heavy. The so-called Dark Age, is this all you're doing? We've always minded our own business. Why are you doing this? The butcher spoke in a low voice. Who do you think you are? Do you have the right to speak here? Grand Emperor spoke, his voice cold. Purple energy surged from his entire body. As soon as Cold in the Forest finished speaking, a terrifying and majestic pressure enveloped the butcher. As he opened and closed his eyes, the sky cracked and countless stars turned into dust. Puff! The butcher immediately let out a shrill cry and spat out blood. If it weren't for Chu Bei shaking off the Emperor's pressure in time, the butcher would have probably been turned into nothingness and disappeared from this world. The butcher retreated to the side, unwillingness on his face, but he didn't dare to speak again. Just now, he truly felt the terror of a half-immortal emperor. Even though he had faintly touched that realm, he still wasn't. In front of a true half-immortal emperor, he was no different from an ant. That dark matter is summoning our people. If they are fated, they will be guided over. Unfortunately, there are too few fated ones. Emperor Tseng spoke, his long gray hair scattered. Speaking up to here, Emperor Tseng's gaze became cold, fixed on Chu Bei's body. And you actually slaughtered all the fated ones in one go. Fortunately, there are quite a few of these fellows following you, so they can make up for some of the losses. Hearing Emperor Tseng's words, the group of ancient immortal kings inexplicably shivered. Even the experts from the other space-time had a bad premonition in their hearts. However, before they could react, Emperor Tseng's hands intertwined as if he was performing some kind of terrifying Emperor divine ability. Rumble! In the next moment, with a loud sound, a dark cage fell from the collapsed sky. Not good. The expressions of the experts from the other space-time changed drastically. The moment the dark cage appeared, the long river of time under their feet was directly cut off. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't go against the flow of time and return to their own space-time. In short, they were forced to stay in this space-time by the dark cage above their heads. The ancient immortal kings who originally belonged to this space-time also showed a terrified expression. When the dark cage fell, they were imprisoned and couldn't escape. What are you trying to do? We don't belong to the same space-time. Aren't you afraid of karma by doing this? The experts from the other space-times stared at Emperor Tseng and questioned one after another. Karma? What a joke! If you were also emperors, perhaps this emperor would be somewhat afraid. But a mere immortal king, even if there is karma, this emperor has nothing to fear. Emperor Tseng sneered, his cold eyes disdainfully sweeping across the experts from the other space-time. Damn it! Are we really going to stay here? We've become the so-called dark creatures. Hearing Emperor Tseng's words, the experts from the other space-time looked even more unsightly. Master, is Willow Deity still doing well? On the collapsed path of darkness, Shihao hurried over, his voice carrying worry. I've seen you before in the great river of time. An unknown seed of disaster, you should be killed. When he saw Shihao, Grand Emperor immediately frowned. He directly attacked, a large hand slapping towards Shihao from the distance, ruthless and cold, wishing to wipe out his soul and flesh. Are you ignoring this one? Chu Bei's voice was indifferent. With a raise of his hand, an expanse of white radiance surrounded Shihao, wrapping around him, easily stopping that large hand's strike. Then I'll just kill you first. With a honglong noise, Emperor Tseng took action again. His right fist clenched, directly smashing towards Chu Bei. Layer after layer of fist imprints overlapped, the aura incomparably terrifying. Chu Bei's face didn't show any fear. The thin sword in his hands brandished, sword radiance shooting in all directions, blasting the fist imprints that wrapped around countless stars into pieces. At the same time, Feather Emperor also took action. He floated above the 9 ancient divine beasts, the divine wings behind him moving, auspicious multicolored light surging. The Emperor's spear in his hands pierced out, his target aimed at Chu Bei. Regardless of whether it was Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor or Feather Emperor, they were all existences that towered at the peak of this world. Meanwhile, right now, they worked together, surrounding and attacking Chu Bei together. Under incomparable heaven-shocking explosions, the 4 figures blasted apart this primal chaos sea until the heavens collapsed and seas split apart, many star domains evaporating, turning into nothingness. Primal chaos surged crazily, as if they returned to the age when primal chaos first opened. On the battlefield, Chu Bei suffered the joint attacks of 3 half-immortal emperors, but from his calm appearance, it didn't seem like it was strenuous at all, to the extent where he was even handling a butcher's cleaver with ease. At the same cultivation realm, fighting 1 against 3, not at all inferior. While watching the intense battle, the experts from the other space-time and the ancient immortal kings all became numb. Then, a look of hope appeared in their eyes. Senior Chu really is unmatched in the same cultivation realm. No wonder he could produce a disciple like Heavenly Emperor Yi. But in the end, he is still just one person. If we can also enter the half-immortal Emperor realm, how great would that be? The butcher, chicken farmer, fake medicine seller, the 3 peak immortal kings looked at each other, releasing sighs of admiration. In Immortal Domain, Hong Tian, Pan King and the other immortal kings stared blankly at the scene in the Sky Dome, their eyes filled with disbelief. When they saw that the creatures of darkness had 3 half-immortal emperors, their hearts immediately sunk to the bottom. In their opinion, no matter how strong this senior Chu was, there was no way he could be the opponent of 3 half-immortal emperors. His final conclusion might very well be the same as that half-immortal emperor from the Age of Emperor Collapse, nursing a grievance here. However, what they didn't expect was that even though they were at the same cultivation realm, their senior Great One still wasn't at a disadvantage. If this disciple was given a few more years, this disciple would be able to fight side by side with your respected self. Sure Hao looked at Chu Bei, who was continuously changing positions on the battlefield, his fists tightly clenching. His face surged with strong battle intent, but also a bit of helplessness. Hong Long Long. On the battlefield, all types of unmatched emperor techniques appeared. Chu Bei fought a great battle against Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor and Feather Emperor alone, the battle incredibly intense, already reaching its climax. If not for the 4 of them opening up a new battlefield above Primal Chaos Realm C, perhaps even those ancient immortal kings and experts from the other space-time in the darkness prison would have already died, their Tao erased. It wasn't that these immortal kings were weak, but rather that the shockwaves of a half-immortal emperor battle really were too terrifying. It was far from what immortal kings could endure. Meanwhile, at this time, Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor and Feather Emperor also became more and more alarmed as they fought, their expressions becoming increasingly grave and ugly. The 3 of them already joined hands, displaying all types of emperor techniques, but they still couldn't kill this emperor of unknown origins. The other party's power didn't originate from the same source as theirs, extremely strange. They had never come into contact with it before. The longer the battle went on, the more resolute Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor and Feather Emperor's eyes became. They had to kill Chu Bei, or else the other party would become a great disaster for them. It was also at this moment that the barren island floating on the surface of the chaotic realm sea suddenly started shaking violently. Hurry and look at that island. Could it be that the half-immortal emperor from the era of Emperor Collapse is still alive? In the darkness prison, an ancient immortal king noticed the abnormality of the island and cried out in alarm. Boom! Just as more and more ancient immortal kings and experts from the other space-time cast their gazes towards that island, an explosive sound came from the island. Then, flames overflowed into the sky, burning fiercely, illuminating the entire Primal Chaos Realm sea. There were even flames that penetrated into the battlefield of Chu Bei, Grey Emperor, and the other two. It's really difficult to die completely. Did he come back to life again? Hearing the commotion, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor, and Feather Emperor glanced at the island, their expressions even more unsightly. Fellow immortal, I can still help a little. Amidst the rumbling, an ethereal voice came from the island. Looking over, not only was the human-shaped flame on the island even more intense, the broken willow tree in the flames also grew again, rapidly growing stronger. Stop it! In the battlefield, Grand Emperor shouted. Almost at the same time, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor, and Feather Emperor gave up on attacking Chu Bei and turned to attack that island. Chapter 493. Are you all looking down on this great one? His voice carrying a smile echoed through the primal chaos void. Chu Bei brandished his sword, powerfully stopping Grand Emperor and the other two. Damn it! Truly troublesome! Under Chu Bei's pressure, Grand Emperor and the other two had no choice but to give up on attacking that island. Gradually, the human-shaped fiery light became more and more solid. That willow tree also glowed with new life, dark green and flourishing, carrying surging life aura. Under the eyes of the immortal kings, the two began to merge. When they completely fused together, a huge wave of quasi-immortal emperor pressure burst out. At this moment, that half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse who nursed a grievance merged with Willow Deity, releasing an aura that wasn't inferior to Grand Emperor and Feather Emperor's aura. When we were in Stone Village, I thought you were only an immortal king. Who would have thought that you were actually an emperor? This was Willow Deity who spoke. Is the emperor you speak of a half-immortal emperor? After Chu Bei blasted Grey Emperor back with a fist, he turned around to give Willow Deity a look, chuckling, and then nodded, indicating that this was his greeting. Willow Deity! Are you okay? Shihao called out. I won't die for now. Willow Deity looked towards Shihao, eyes carrying gratification. The two of us together can only help you stop one of them, and the time is limited. This time, the one who spoke was that half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse, speaking to Chu Bei. When his voice fell, the two merged into a scarlet-red willow tree appeared on the battlefield. This emperor will suppress you all one more time! Feather Emperor shouted, breaking away from his battle with Chu Bei, raising the war spear and slaughtering his way towards the scarlet-red willow tree. Back then, when we fought one-on-one, I wasn't weaker than you. An ice-cold and overcast voice sounded. The scarlet-red willow tree swayed, carrying primal chaos and endless blazing fiery light. Several primal chaos willow branches shot out, sweeping towards Feather Emperor. Fight! The scarlet-red willow tree and Feather Emperor interweaved together, both sides not holding back, both of them using their most powerful precious techniques, fighting incomparably intensely. As for the other side of the battlefield, without Emperor Yu, Grand Emperor and Emperor Sun clearly felt the pressure on their bodies rise sharply. In an instant they were forced to retreat bit by bit, and could only be in a defensive state. Chu Bei's attacks were truly too ferocious. Before the first wave had even subsided, another wave had risen. It was extremely terrifying. Rumble! The vast chaotic realm sea was in turmoil under the impact of the 5 great emperors. The ancient beasts in the sea below had either died or fled. The emperor's aura surged into the sky, surging endlessly. As time passed, the Crimson Willow's figure began to fade, as if it was slowly disappearing. When they looked at Grand Emperor and Grey Emperor again, these two individuals were already coughing out blood, beaten back step after step by Chu Bei. From time to time, there would be areas that would explode, turning into a rain of great Tao light. Emperor Yu, come and help! Grand Emperor and Grey Emperor's auras became chaotic. They had already begun to burn their blood essence to block Chu Bei's attacks. Hearing this, Feather Emperor frowned. He also wanted to immediately go and help. However, his battle wasn't over yet. He couldn't get away, and he was powerless. Pooh! Grey Emperor coughed out blood. His chest was pierced through by Chu Bei's sword. The flesh there exploded, bones releasing pie-paw sounds, black blood scattering out. "Sacrifice all things!" Grand Emperor roared out. His entire body released dark light, distorting space, making the primal chaos collapse, turning into his source power. The wings on his back swirled with yin and yang energies, producing the divine abilities of the Kunpeng, True Phoenix, Lightning Emperor, and other heavenly experts. At this moment, Grand Emperor's wings were like heaven and earth's black and white, yin and yang, the embodiment of two opposing sides, the power matchless. Pun! However, when Grand Emperor's killing move had just been activated, it was hacked apart by Chu Bei's sword. Immediately afterwards, following a low noise, Grand Emperor's wings were blasted flying, badly mangled. It was a ghastly sight. Above the chaotic realm sea, on an independent battlefield, black clouds surged, the heavenly dome cracked, countless stars collapsing. Rumbling sounds of explosions rang out continuously. This was the scarlet willow tree formed by that half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse who merged with Willow Deity, fighting a great battle against Feather Emperor. The battle became more and more intense. Perhaps because it had been fighting for a long time, the scarlet willow tree gradually became transparent. "Let's see just how much longer you two can hold on for. Back then, you weren't my match. Now, with just a strand of your soul and a ruined willow tree, you still vainly wish to stop me?" Feather Emperor was truly angered, darkness force surging around his body. He was extremely strong, the most powerful of the three half-immortal emperors. When the deep and cold voice sounded, the war spear in Feather Emperor's hands stabbed out, the spearhead piercing through countless star domains, instantly appearing in front of the scarlet willow tree. "You still have the face to bring up the events of the past? Truly laughable!" The scarlet willow tree released a cold snort. Its body that was already becoming transparent shone with vitality again. Primal chaos branches lashed out, striking the spear. Kangchang noises rang out, releasing dazzling light. At the same time, raging flames turned into divine chains of order, smashing murderously towards Feather Emperor's true body. "This time, I will definitely make you all truly die." The divine wings behind Feather Emperor moved, powerful winds sweeping about. "Perhaps I will reach the end, but you will die before me." The scarlet willow deity released a laugh. When he heard this, Feather Emperor's brows furrowed tightly, looking towards the other battlefield. Over there, Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor's bodies continuously exploded and recombined, aura fluctuations becoming more and more chaotic. "Feather Emperor, when exactly are you going to come and help?" In that battlefield, Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor's voices sounded, carrying worry and fear. From a normal perspective, at their level, there was already no such thing as death. However, if millions and millions of them were killed, their Emperor source would still be exhausted. At that time, they would truly die. Meanwhile, when Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor faced Chu Bei, they couldn't help but shiver inwardly. This type of feeling was as if death was already waving at them. "We can't drag things out any longer. I must ask World Eradication Senior to take action." Grey Emperor was blasted into a bloody paste by Chu Bei's fist again. After recombining, he immediately pulled apart the distance between him and Chu Bei, moreover looking towards Grand Emperor. The two exchanged a look, communicating through their eyes, as if they reached a unanimous decision. Then, their hands formed strange unmatched purple-red imprints at the same time. Hong Long! As the two purple-red imprints entered the limits of Primal Chaos Realm C, a terrifying noise sounded from the limits of Realm C. At the same time, dazzling and resplendent radiance erupted. Right at this moment, in that deathly still sea region, the eyelids of a ruined corpse that was originally floating on the surface of the sea moved, slowly opening its eyes. "We are all the same type of people, so why is there a need to kill each other? Why bother?" Immediately afterwards, the ruined corpse released a voice, ringing through the entire Realm C, sinister and overcast. At the limits of Primal Chaos Realm C, it was cold and desolate. Since the age of Emperor Collapse, there had been no sound for millions and millions of years. However, when this voice sounded, heaven-shocking changes happened. The brilliance released by that ruined corpse's eyes had stellar streams appearing, star domains interweaving. Just the emperor force carried by the eyes was already comparable to or even greater than the most powerful attacks of Grand Emperor, and the others, extremely intimidating. Walala, primal chaos realm sea seemed to have completely exploded. Not only did it surge violently, crazy winds even swept about the sea surface, to the extent where raging black flames curled about. Above the sea surface, countless brownish-purple lightning exploded in the darkness, all types of terrifying irregular scenes appearing. Could it be that there are even more powerful emperors on the side of the creatures of darkness? It seems to be related to the seals released by Grand Emperor and Grey Emperor. Moreover, from the way they address him, the seniority of the one who spoke is even above theirs. How could it be like this? The current situation is already very confusing. If the one who spoke joins in, Senior Lord will be in danger. The group of immortal kings in the darkness cage immediately focused their eyes towards the end of Primal Chaos Realm C, all of their expressions incomparably grave. Senior World Annihilation, we have no intention of disturbing your rest. Right now, we really have no other choice, please don't blame us. Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, and Feather Emperor immediately cupped their fists towards the end, their words incomparably respectful. It looks like a ruined corpse. No, it's a living creature. The butcher, the chicken farmer, the fake medicine seller, and the other extreme immortal kings seemed to have seen something clearly, crying out in alarm. At this level, what is there for you to be reluctant to part with? Is it worth it to kill each other for a group of ants? You have to know that we are the same kind of people. At the end of Primal Chaos Realm C, a gloomy and low voice drifted over again, shaking everyone's hearts. At this moment, the ruined corpse on the sea surface at the end slowly got up, coldly looking in the direction of Chu Bei, Grand Emperor, and the others. Its withered body began to radiate vitality, showing signs of life. Upon closer inspection, it only had one leg and one arm. The hair on its head was withered and yellow like wild grass, giving one a feeling of having experienced the vicissitudes of time. 1. It was only to see the ruined corpse raise its single arm and point towards the north. With a wing sound, in a bloody ancient land, an arm rose into the air, connecting with the ruined corpse's body, completely recombining. At almost the same time, great waves surged into the heavens in the south. A severed leg carried blood as it tore through the sky, also recombining with the ruined corpse. In just a few short seconds, the ruined corpse's body became complete. As its body recovered, its robes fluttered, erupting with heaven overflowing black mist. In an instant, the entire realm sea was covered by black clouds. That was darkness source energy that was dense to the point where it couldn't be dispersed. This was a gray-robed elder. His figure was withered and tall, but his eyes were incomparably brilliant, dazzling and terrifying. He's here! Under the shocked gazes of the group of immortal kings, the gray-robed elder took a step out, bringing boundless pressure with him, directly descending on the battlefield Chu Bei was in. The seawater below directly exploded, forming a vacuum zone. His aura is indeed above Grey Emperor, Feather Emperor, and the others. The gray-robed elder appeared in the battlefield. The butcher, chicken farmer, and the other immortal kings also truly sensed the former's terrifying aura. Their expressions suddenly changed, becoming ugly to the extreme. The crimson willow turned into a human form, frowning. This gray-robed elder who suddenly appeared, the power of darkness within his body was really too vast, even surpassing Grey Emperor, Feather Emperor, and Grand Emperor combined. As for Chu Bei, his expression still didn't change much, only calmly shooting a glance at the gray-robed elder. Senior World Devastator! Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, and Feather Emperor immediately arrived in front of the gray-robed elder, incomparably polite. You don't need to say it, I also know the purpose of his trip this time. The gray-robed elder glanced at Grey Emperor and the other two, nodding slightly in greeting. Then, his gaze fixed on Chu Bei's body. As the elder's voice fell, with himself as the center, a powerful might rippled out, oppressing realm sea until it was turbulent. Monstrous waves surged into the sky, pervading the universe. In an instant, the boundless realm sea was filled with the power of darkness, becoming even darker. Chapter 494. World Eradication Senior is the #1 emperor when primal chaos first opened. Even we are still latecomers before him, we need to show him respect. On the battlefield, Grey Emperor looked coldly at Chu Bei, releasing a cold snort. When you see him, shouldn't you be greeting him? Ever since the Grey-Robed Elder arrived, regardless of whether it was Grey Emperor, Feather Emperor, or Grand Emperor, the restraining fear they originally felt towards Chu Bei completely disappeared, as if they found a backer. What? He is the #1 emperor when primal chaos first opened. Could it be that this elder already stands at the peak of emperor level? Inside the darkness prison, when the immortal kings heard Grey Emperor's words, their eyes immediately revealed deep shock. The #1 emperor when primal chaos first opened, it really was too terrifying. The butcher, chicken farmer, fake medicine seller, and Sure How exchanged a look. When they looked towards Chu Bei again, worry appeared in their eyes. It was because this grey-robed elder's background really was too terrifying. Nothing more than a 9th-layer half-immortal emperor. Chu Bei sized up the grey-robed elder, his voice calm. The so-called primal chaos first opened is nothing more than the primal chaos of this world. What is the meaning of this? Could it be that there is an even greater world? When he heard Chu Bei's words, Grand Emperor frowned. Chu Bei gave Grand Emperor an indifferent look, not replying. Indeed, in the end, I am still stuck at this cultivation realm, to the extent where I haven't even reached the consummate level, let alone crossing that final threshold. I have tried before, but I failed, defeated extremely miserably. I am only a step ahead of you all, standing at the 9th layer. The grey-robed elder's eyes swept over Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, and the other two, his expression as if he was reminiscing about the past, releasing a deep sigh. 9th layer half-immortal emperor? Failed? What is the so-called threshold? Could it be that their emperor realm really isn't a perfect emperor realm? Otherwise, why would they use the word half? But isn't this elder the #1 emperor when primal chaos first opened? Even his cultivation path hasn't reached its end yet? When they heard the grey-robed elder's words, including the butcher, Hong Tian, Sure How, and the other immortal kings looked at each other in dismay, their eyes carrying a bit of confusion and bewilderment, vaguely carrying suspicions. My name is Old Man Annihilation. You can be like them and call me Senior Annihilation. Let's end today's battle here. In the future, join them and search for the true path to becoming an emperor in the darkness. The grey-robed old man looked at Chu Bei and said calmly, You are the same as them. You have already lost your humanity. Chu Bei looked at the grey-robed elder, shook his head, and sighed. Devoid of humanity? This is truly the biggest joke I've heard in a billion years. For you to be able to step foot into this realm, you must have experienced enough time, witnessing the changes of one epoch after another. The grey-robed elder's robes fluttered as he calmly looked at Chu Bei. The so-called emotions and desires should have been given up long ago. The great Tao is heartless. In order to reach the highest peak, you and I can only sever our emotions. If you can't let go, how can you step into the true emperor realm? Or perhaps, you haven't experienced enough time and your heart hasn't experienced enough. When you truly sever your emotions and look back, you will understand that only my Tao is eternal. Billions of years ago, which of the three of them didn't have a large number of descendants and established an everlasting great sect? But in the end, what happened? Those were just illusions. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. In the end, they all got over it and personally buried their own clans. The grey-robed elder pointed at Emperor Tsang, Emperor Grand, and Emperor Yu as he spoke slowly. Then why haven't you broken through that threshold after severing your emotions and destroying your humanity? Chu Bei let out a cold laugh. There are still too few living beings that have been destroyed. The darkness source isn't condensed enough. The grey-robed elder spoke. Darkness source? I came here this time to destroy it. Chu Bei glanced at the grey-robed elder indifferently. Senior Annihilation, Don't try to persuade him anymore. He is not on the same path as us. It's useless. Emperor Tsung cupped his fists. Forget it, forget it. The gray-robed old man sighed. As he opened and closed his eyes, a soul-stirring power circulated within them. 2 beams of light shot towards Chubei and the crimson willow tree. Wherever they passed, the darkness was instantly illuminated. Ah! The crimson-red willow tree was the first to let out a painful cry. Under the gaze, the half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor collapsed, separated from the willow deity. Soon, the former turned back into a human-shaped flame, the latter also turned back into a pale white willow tree. Looking back at Chubei, his originally incomparably terrifying aura suddenly disappeared. The surface of his body began to release a faint rainbow light. The so-called rainbow wasn't just a simple common color, but tens of thousands of different colors intertwined. Although his aura had disappeared, the beam of light from the gray-robed old man's eyes did not cause any harm to him. That half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse, after merging with the ancestral guardian spirit, could fight against Emperor Yu. But facing this gray-robed elder, he couldn't even take a single gaze. The first emperor from the beginning of the primal chaos. Who can beat him? Didn't you see? Senior Chu is fine. In the darkness cage, the group of immortal king experts stared blankly at the battlefield. After seeing Willow Deity's miserable state, their faces carried sympathy, but when they saw Chubei, their eyes surged with shock, and even more so with joy. World Annihilation Senior, why did he? Grey Emperor, Feather Emperor, and Grand Emperor stared fixedly at Chubei. Even those as powerful as them were at a loss. The gray-robed elder was silent. Only the aura in his gaze became more and more terrifying, stirring up the entire realm sea's darkness power. However, Chubei was still safe and sound. The gray-robed elder frowned. His gaze was already enough to kill a 6th-layer half-immortal emperor. However, the other party was completely fine. What made him feel especially strange was that even though the other party's aura fluctuation disappeared, his intuition warned him that this person couldn't be underestimated. Something is strange. He couldn't see what was going on. Then, the gray-robed elder muttered, "Hong Long Long." However, right when the gray-robed elder was about to directly rush up and attack, an incomparably massive great river of time surged over, extending into the battlefield. Then, at the limits of the great river, 3 figures appeared, instantly appearing above the battlefield. These 3 creatures arrived while treading on the great river of time. They were in another space-time, but regardless of which one it was, their auras were all far stronger than those experts from the other space-time in the darkness cage. There are people coming from downstream. There are even 3 of them. Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, and Feather Emperor frowned. The great river of time surged, countless time fragments surging. 3 streaks of rainbow light flew over from downstream. The gray-robed elder also looked over. When he sensed the 3's auras, his expression also changed. These 3 creatures were all half-immortal emperors, just like Grand Emperor and the others, at the 3rd-layer realm. From the age of Emperor Collapse until now, even if this mysterious person of unknown origins was added, there were only 6 half-immortal emperors in total. Yet now, 3 of them suddenly appeared in the lower reaches of the great river of time, arriving together. Their appearance might very well stir up the development of the situation. Of course, it wasn't because these 3 half-immortal emperors who arrived while treading on the great river of time could threaten the gray-robed elder, but rather because they came from downstream. Taking action while separated by space-time could easily trigger great karma. The great river of time rumbled, the 3 streaks of light arriving in the blink of an eye. They were wrapped in unmatched divine light, the great Tao symbols on the surface of their bodies extremely dazzling, intimidating one's soul. These 3 great creatures, 2 men and 1 woman, all of them turned into human form. The aura they unintentionally released was incomparable, making one feel suffocated. The 3 great creatures stood side by side, indifferently shooting a glance at the group of immortal kings in the darkness cage, a wave of power that looked down on the world seeping out from their bodies. Then, when their eyes looked towards Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, and Feather Emperor, their expressions clearly becoming stunned, carrying a bit of surprise. Especially when they saw the gray-robed man, even someone as powerful as them trembled slightly, vigilance and restraining fear rising in their eyes. 3 immortal friends came from downstream, not belonging to this space-time. If you rashly take action, I fear that it won't be just my epoch, your space-time will also be overturned. The gray-robed elder gave the 3 figures who came from downstream a look and said, "We won't participate in your battle. As for why we came this time, it is to search for him." One of the downstream creatures nodded towards the gray-robed elder, and then reached out a finger in Sure Hao's direction. His eyes narrowed, powerful killing intent surging. "Correct, we only came to kill Huang. After killing him, we will leave. This great era's Huang is still merely at the immortal king realm. The karma created by going against the great river to kill him is something we can endure." The other 2 downstream creatures spoke up, their eyes also shooting towards Sure Hao's body, their voices cold. "At this cultivation realm, you all went against the great river of time, even sending out 3 people, all for the sake of killing him?" The gray-robed elder couldn't help but size up this figure he never paid attention to, his brows furrowing. "In your space-time, his influence is great?" Almost at the same time, Gray Emperor, Grand Emperor, Feather Emperor, and the others' eyes also locked onto Sure Hao's body, their eyes carrying a bit of shock. Someone who could make 3 half-immortal emperors go against the great river of time, not hesitating to endure karma. Just how terrifying was he in the future great era? What? Those 3 half-immortal emperors came for him. Right now, he is still only an immortal king. Could it be that the future great era really has reached an unfathomable height? He is Senior Chu's personal disciple. If he really has that type of accomplishments, then it is to be expected. Now 3 half-immortal emperors are going to take action against an immortal king. Isn't this already the conclusion? Including the butcher, chicken farmer, and the other immortal kings' faces were full of disbelief as they stared at Chu Bei. When they first saw these 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches, they thought that they came to disturb the situation. Who would have expected that they actually came for Sure Hao? "Since it doesn't involve our battlefield, then do as you all please." The gray-robed elder spoke, not interfering. "Take action." This was a man dressed in immortal gold armor, in his hands a great halberd. He had a head of silver hair, possessing intimidating aptitude, his pupils oppressive like blades. Kill Huang. This was a woman with rather good looks, dressed in a golden long dress that also looked like armor, noble and oppressive. At the same time, her eyes were also intimidating. The 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches gave each other a look. After communicating with their eyes, they reached out their sparkling palms at the same time, slapping towards Sure Hao. The power of their palms was horrifying to the extreme, producing heaven-overflowing great Tao symbols, covering heaven and earth, shaking up the past, present, and future. Under this wave of terrifying emperor might, all of Sure Hao's immortal force was immediately restricted, suppressed to the point where he couldn't move a single step. However, when he saw these 3 incomparably terrifying great palms break through the space-time barrier, about to smash into Sure Hao's body, a layer of colorful ripples rippled over, wrapping around the latter. Hong Long! The heavenly dome exploded, great waves surging in realm sea. Emperor force surged and pervaded the air. However, Sure Hao, who was at the center of the explosion, didn't suffer the slightest injury, completely unharmed. The power produced by those 3 great palms was completely blocked by the colorful ripples around his body. Chapter 495. N. When they saw this scene, the 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches immediately frowned. They followed the multicolored ripples, their eyes landing on Chu Bei's body. "Who are you?" The 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches spoke out at the same time, their expressions extremely ugly. Chu Bei didn't pay these 3 half-immortal emperors any attention, to the extent where he even closed his eyes, as if he didn't attach any importance to them at all. When they discovered that they were being ignored, the expressions of the 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches immediately fell to the extreme. Hong Long! They took action again, their target still Shihao. Even though they really wanted to get rid of Chu Bei first, they were still separated by the great river of time. If they took action against someone at the same cultivation realm, then the karma that would result might be something they couldn't bear. Only, when their even more powerful attacks were about to land on Shihao's body, a similar scene played out again. Multicolored ripples rippled, neutralizing their joint attacks. Damn it! The three half-immortal emperors' brows were tightly furrowed. They glanced in Chu Bei's direction, their eyes surging with strong killing intent. Immortal friends, I must ask you all to lend us a hand, take action together to kill Huang. He cannot be allowed to live! That golden-dressed woman looked towards the gray-robed man, Gray Emperor and the others, her expression a bit anxious. Walala, however, as soon as the woman finished speaking, another incomparably massive great river of time surged over, extending into the battlefield. The three of you really are going too far! From the lower reaches of the great river of time, another three creatures flew over. At the same time, the one at the very front spoke, his voice incomparably cold, carrying endless anger and killing intent. Dang! The great cauldron was long and drawn out, accompanied by the 9 heavens lightning. An imposing man stood on the source energy cauldron, possessing impervious power. He stepped on the great river of time, slaughtering his way into the battlefield. The great cauldron was majestic, releasing all life source energy. Each time it shook, there would be time ripples that extended outwards, releasing millions and millions of strands of immortal light. The two figures behind him also carried endless battle intent, possessing matchless cultivation. Without a doubt, they were half-immortal emperor-level experts as well. And who are you? The gray-robed elder's expression became more and more serious, looking towards the man standing on the source energy cauldron. My name is Yifan. The imposing man directly took action, a fist smashing towards the 3 half-immortal emperors who came from the lower reaches. Rumble! The cauldron sounds were long and drawn out, bringing with it 9 heavens lightning, simultaneously sweeping through the 3 half-immortal emperors. The 2 words Yifan shook realms sea, shaking the entire sky dome, power overflowing into the heavens. Yi! Celestial Emperor Yi! He is from the same epoch as me. In our space-time, he is an unrivaled being. Is he here to save that person? One of the immortal kings in the dark prison recognized Yifan and exclaimed in surprise. The butcher, the chicken farmer, and the fake medicine seller, these 3 peak-stage immortal kings were stunned, and they all showed respect. They had seen this celestial Emperor Yi from the future in the reincarnation cycle. Yifan! One of the 3 quasi-immortal emperors shouted coldly. Next, one of them took the initiative to attack. He erupted with a towering might to meet the myriad chi cauldron. Buzz! Right at this time, multicolored light flickered behind Yifan. 9-colored immortal gold aura pervaded the air, and a great bell appeared. Below the big bell, a man stood tall and straight. His eyebrows were vertical, and his eyes were as sharp as cold lightning. He waved his emperor's fist and attacked. Without beginning, I will fight you! The second quasi-immortal emperor who came previously faced the male with the great bell above his head. Huang! Today, you will definitely die! When she saw her companions separately face Yifan and without beginning, that female immortal emperor dressed in golden battle clothes immediately turned around murderously towards Shihao. Emperor force gathered in her palm, carrying terrifying might. Walala! However, when the blonde woman's unmatched emperor technique was about to land on Shihao's body, the great river of time surged, waves rushing into the heavens. A woman appeared. This woman's black clothes were purer than snow, black hair fluttering about. Her appearance was exceptional, style unmatched. She took action, attacking the woman dressed in golden battle clothes. Vicious, you all really are like ghosts that won't disperse. Her attack was blocked. The golden-clothed woman looked coldly at the black-clothed woman, her expression incomparably ugly. You all can only use unscrupulous methods to go against the great river of time. The black-clothed woman's style was unmatched. She gave the golden-clothed woman a look, her words carrying disdain. No matter what kind of price we have to pay, we will kill Huang here. The golden-clothed woman's eyes were resolute, killing intent strong. Hong Long Long, in that instant, an intense battle of half-immortal emperors erupted. Fortunately this time, the great battle of half-immortal emperors took place in the space-time Yi Fan and the others were in. However, even if one watched from across the great river of time, it still made one shiver inwardly. Their battle was too intense, all types of emperor-precious techniques appearing endlessly. The battle was world-shaking, ghosts weeping and deities howling. Pooh! The first to decide victory and defeat were Vicious Great Emperor and that golden-armored woman. Vicious Great Emperor surged with immortal light, wondrous techniques endless. After countless exchanges, his right palm formed a magical imprint, blasting the golden-clothed woman until she flew out, blood gushing out from her mouth. Then, Great Emperor Without Beginning's battle also decided victory and defeat. He was incomparably valiant, holding Without Beginning bell, continuously attacking. All types of emperor techniques were continuously displayed, blasting his opponents until they continuously backed up, their auras becoming chaotic. The half-immortal Emperor Yi Fan fought against was the strongest of the three, but he still gradually fell into a disadvantage, continuously coughing out blood from Yi Fan's all-life source cauldron. Just give up! With us here, you all can forget about reversing time, rewriting karma. They were all third-level half-immortal emperors. In a one-on-one situation, the first three half-immortal emperors who wanted to kill Shi Hao were clearly not a match for Without Beginning, Vicious and Yi Fan. However, it was precisely because they were all at the third level that Yi Fan and the others couldn't kill the other three. Heavenly Emperor Yi, Vicious, Without Beginning, did they all come to save that person? Huang? Could it be that this person is our great era's unmatched emperor, Heavenly Emperor Huang? My heavens! Could it really be him? According to what I know, Heavenly Emperor Huang and Heavenly Emperor Yi came from the same sect, Martial Brothers. In Darkness Prison, those immortal kings from the other space-time who came from the same great era as Yi Fan and Without Beginning seemed to have thought of something. When they looked at Shi Hao again, their mouths were wide open, faces full of disbelief. Immediately afterwards, they became incomparably respectful. As time went on, Yi Fan, Vicious and Without Beginning's battle calmed down. The first three half-immortal emperors who arrived on the great river of time stood together, all of their expressions incredibly overcast. Ever since Yi Fan, Without Beginning and the other two appeared, they knew that killing Shi Hao wasn't that easy anymore, let alone the layer of strange rainbow ripples around Shi Hao's body. The battle calmed down. Yi Fan, Without Beginning and Vicious walked towards Chu Bei while stepping on the great river of time. Disciple Yi Fan pays his respects to Master. Without Beginning pays his respects to Senior. Vicious pays his respects to Senior. Yi Fan and the other two arrived in front of Chu Bei, bowing at the same time through the space-time barrier, their expressions incomparably respectful. Senior brother! Meanwhile, at this time, Shi Hao also took a step forward, cupping his fists towards Yi Fan. Even though his era was before Yi Fan's, entering the sect didn't have a difference in age. Yi Fan entered his master's tutelage before him, so he naturally had to call him senior brother. Chu Bei slowly opened his eyes. He gave Yi Fan, Without Beginning and Vicious a look, nodding slightly, and then closed his eyes again. Yi Fan, Vicious and Without Beginning gave each other a look, their eyes carrying confusion. However, they didn't pursue the matter. They could vaguely sense that Chu Bei's body was a bit strange. It was instead those ancient immortal kings, experts from the other space-time, immortal domains Hong Tian, Pan King and other immortal king experts who were all at a loss for what to do, as if they were struck by lightning from a clear sky, but also as if a bucket of cold water was poured over them, making them feel numb and absent-minded. Heavenly Emperor Huang and Heavenly Emperor Yi really are fellow disciples after all. Moreover, their master is actually that Senior Chu. Could it be that Vicious and Without Beginning have both met him before? They are actually this respectful. However, regardless of whether it is Heavenly Emperor Yi, Without Beginning or Vicious, their cultivation realms have already caught up to that person. In terms of cultivation alone, they are already on equal footing. Did you all hear that? That half-immortal emperor who came through the great river of time is actually Senior Chu's disciple. But didn't they come from the lower reaches of the great river of time? Then the question is, which great era does Senior Great One belong to? The experts from the other space-time, ancient immortal kings, great Sky Pan King and others, their experiences and understandings were different, so the directions of their discussions were also different. However, what was similar was that right now, they were all incomparably shocked. Turns out your master is him. The eyes of the three half-immortal emperors who first arrived on the great river of time continuously moved back and forth between Shi Hao, Yi Fan and Chu Bei's bodies, full of shock. In their great era, regardless of whether it was Heavenly Emperor Huang or Heavenly Emperor Yi, they both slaughtered their way into great reputations. What was even more terrifying was that there were rumors that they were fellow disciples, coming from the same sect. Only, they had never met the master behind these two. They never expected that they would actually meet him in this reverse space-time. At the same time, what they rejoiced over was that this so-called master wasn't the true immortal emperor they imagined, but rather the same half-immortal emperor realm as them, just that his cultivation realm was a bit higher than theirs. How is this possible? How could you be his disciple? If one were to talk about who was the most shocked on the battlefield, it would be the gray-robed elder at the half-immortal emperor realm, his face full of shock. This man called Heavenly Emperor Yi came from the lower reaches of the great river of time. In other words, the other party was also someone from the future great era. However, from the expression of this Heavenly Emperor Yi's so-called master, the other party clearly already knew that he was Heavenly Emperor Yi's master. This was extremely illogical. If one followed the flow of time, even if that half-immortal emperor of unknown origins fostered Heavenly Emperor Yi in the future, he shouldn't know about this at this time. Meanwhile, judging from the current situation, the other party should have traveled through the great river of time to the future. After nurturing Heavenly Emperor Yi, he then came to the great era they were in. Or perhaps there was another possibility, which was that this mysterious half-immortal emperor belonged to the future great era to begin with. He went against the great river of time, broke through the space-time barrier, descended to this great era, and then fostered Shi Hao. Regardless of whether it was the first or second possibility, this shouldn't have happened at all. The former, heading to the future to nurture a seed, if it was an ordinary person, then that was one thing, but this person was a half-immortal emperor, possessing great karma. Even someone as powerful as him at the 9th heavenly realm couldn't do this. As for the latter, if he came from the future, in the previous half-immortal emperor battle, great karma should have long been produced. Both sides of space-time should have been overturned. There was no way nothing happened. What is going on? Why are you their master? The gray-robed man stared at Chu Bei, wishing for the other party to give him an explanation. However, the latter still closed his eyes, not replying at all. Chapter 496. On the battlefield, Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, Feather Emperor and the other three half-immortal emperors behind the gray-robed elder seemed to have realized this as well. They gave each other a look, frowning at the same time. No matter what, we have to kill Huang today. We already came here, so there has to be a result. Even if he is hidden in this space-time, we still have to kill him. They couldn't think of a reason. Then, the eyes of the woman dressed in golden battle clothes landed on Shi Hao's body again. She released a roar, her originally pretty face becoming sinister. That thick killing intent was as if she was facing the enemy who killed her father. The other two half-immortal emperors who also came from the lower reaches gave each other a look, their eyes also becoming resolute. They came precisely to kill Huang, to the extent where they didn't hesitate to pay any price. Dao friends, before we came, you all were also fighting. The golden-clothed woman looked at Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor, and then reached out a finger, pointing at Chu Bei. You all heard him as well. He is Huang's master, as well as your enemy. Why don't you all lend us a hand first, kill Huang first, and then we'll help you all kill his master through the river of time. Killing him, I alone am enough, Grey Emperor said indifferently. Even though there were strange rainbow ripples around Shirhao's body, in his opinion, they were from the same great era. As long as they attacked at close range, even those rainbow ripples wouldn't be able to stop it. When his indifferent voice sounded, Grey Emperor took action without any hesitation, immediately appearing above Shirhao's head, condensing an incomparably terrifying fist. The surface of the fist was covered in dense and horrifying darkness force, directly smashing down. You dare? When Grey Emperor's fist was about to smash into Shirhao's head, a great river of time surged over. Yi Fan took action. He also clenched his fist, 9-colored lightning interweaving on the surface, carrying Emperor force, piercing through the space-time barrier, facing Grey Emperor. Hong Long! The instant they collided, the space-time of two different great eras trembled at the same time, as if it was going to collapse. Right at this moment, mysterious Emperor symbols appeared around Yi Fan and Grey Emperor's bodies. Then, they burned fiercely on the surface of their bodies, as if they were going to be burned into nothingness. Pooh! Blood gushed out from the two of them at the same time. They belonged to different time spaces, yet they still fought. This created great karma. Not only did he suffer a karmic backlash, but it also caused the two dimensions to tremble violently, and the river of time to churn. It's true! At their level, when people of the same cultivation level fight, there will be great karma that will affect the stability of the space-time between the two sides. In the darkness cage, the group of immortal kings felt their hearts palpitating. Immortal friends, I must ask you all to continue killing Huang. As for Yi Fan and the other two, we'll stop them. As soon as she finished speaking, the woman in gold took the lead to attack Yi Fan. At the same time, the other two companions of the golden-robed woman also attacked No Beginning and Vicious. Rumble! An incomparably intense battle and a different space-time occurred once again. Only this time, regardless of whether it was Yi Fan, Vicious, or Without Beginning, they didn't have the heart to continue fighting against the golden-clothed woman and the other two, instead constantly paying attention to Shirhao's safety. Feather Emperor took action. He arrived in front of Shirhao, wishing to deal the killing blow. However, this time, No Beginning managed to extricate himself, forcing Feather Emperor to retreat through the space-time barrier. Puff! A muffled noise sounded. Feather Emperor and Without Beginning coughed out blood at the same time, suffering the backlash of karma. Their expressions were filled with incomparable pain. Grand Emperor's attack arrived. Vicious forced the enemy back, quickly stopping Grand Emperor in Shirhao's place. Another collision was made. Grand Emperor and Vicious suffered the backlash of karma, their entire bodies surging with Emperor symbol flames. After 3 consecutive clashes between half-immortal emperors separated by the great river of time, the space-time between the two sides became more and more unstable, as if it was going to be destroyed at any time. Grey Emperor, Grand Emperor, Feather Emperor, all of you should stop. You all still cannot shoulder the burden of karma, so let me deal with them. Right at this time, the grey-robed elder spoke, his cold and overcast voice shaking everyone's minds. His aura was exceptionally terrifying, releasing roiling black clouds. This was the most fundamental darkness force, making the seabed of Realm Sea collapse. After saying this, the grey-robed elder took action. His first target was Without Beginning. A large hand wrapped in darkness passed through the space-time barrier, directly grabbing towards Without Beginning on the other side of space-time. Dang! Bell sounds rang through the air. Heaven and earth collapsed, the power of time pervading the air. Without Beginning faced that large darkness hand. The two collided. Chi. In almost an instant, the two of them suffered the backlash of karma at the same time. In the next moment, Without Beginning's expression became one of pain, burned by emperor symbols that mysteriously appeared, his aura becoming chaotic. On the other hand, the grey-robed elder released a loud shout, the black mist around his body forming waves, forcing back the emperor symbols. You all killed an immortal king across the great river of time, so you all have the ability to shoulder the karma. Meanwhile, I have entered the 9th stage realm, so I can similarly bear the karma of killing 3rd stage immortals like you all. The grey-robed elder's voice was cold, shooting out two beams of dark light. With a chi-chi sound, it actually directly pierced through Without Beginning's chest. Then, the gray-robed elder took action again, another giant palm appearing. When they saw this, Yi Fan and Vicious immediately appeared by Without Beginning's side, resisting that heaven-reaching giant palm together with the latter. Pun pun pun! Yi Fan and the other two joined forces, each displaying their most powerful emperor techniques, mixing them together to face the heaven-reaching giant palm. This karma, how can third-stage realm immortals like you all block it? The gray-robed elder was determined to kill Yi Fan and the other two. For this reason, he directly compressed the darkness origin energy to the extreme, fusing it into his giant palm, and slammed it out. Chi chi chi! A terrifying and strange burning sound drifted in the realm's sea. Whether it was the experts from the other space-time, the Butcher, Hong Tian, or the other ancient immortal kings, when they saw the Emperor's symbol flames rising from the surface of Yi Fan, Without Beginning, Vicious, and the gray-robed elders' bodies, they could not help but tremble. Their hearts tightened, and a sense of fear rose in their hearts. This was the backlash of great karma. What can this karma do to me? The gray-robed elder shouted, the rich darkness origin energy in his body surging out, instantly enveloping the Emperor's symbol flames. Rumble! Accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the darkness origin energy dispersed the Emperor's symbol flames, forcing back the terrifying karma power. On the other hand, Yi Fan, Vicious, and Without Beginning in the other space-time found it difficult to dissolve the karma power. Even if they resisted with all their Emperor power, they still could not destroy the strange Emperor symbol flames. Their expressions were extremely painful. Condense! The gray-robed elder looked coldly at Yi Fan and the other two. As he shouted, his terrifying pitch-black hands slapped forward at the same time. In an instant, the space-time where Yi Fan, Vicious, and Without Beginning were trembling, filled with endless darkness origin energy. As for the woman in golden armor and her two companions, they were stunned at first. After looking at the gray-robed elder in shock, they then looked at Yi Fan and the other two with joy on their faces. Rumble! At a closer look, two terrifying pitch-black palms had appeared above Yi Fan, Without Beginning, and Vicious heads. Amidst a terrifying buzzing sound, the two palms merged, interweaving into a huge nine-sided cauldron. Darkness origin energy spewed out of the nine-sided cauldron as if it was the source of all darkness. Withdraw! As the gray-robed elder's cold voice sounded, the nine-sided cauldron suddenly turned upside down, the mouth of the cauldron facing Yi Fan and Without Beginning. It was also at this moment that the gray-robed elder was once again corroded by the great karma, but he did not care. He allowed the Emperor's runes to burn, and at the same time, he added the darkness origin energy from the nine-sided cauldron. Yi Fan, Vicious, and Without Beginning frowned. Their expressions were grave as they continuously performed various Emperor's techniques to counter the dark nine-sided cauldron that was turning upside down. However, the various Supreme Emperor's techniques, which were powerful enough to easily kill an immortal king, did not cause any sparks when they struck the nine-sided cauldron. There was not even a rumble. Yi Fan's myriad chi cauldron, Vicious heaven-devouring jar, and Without Beginning's Emperor's bell all cracked. The nine-sided cauldron was too terrifying. It carried a power that surpassed the level of a quasi-immortal emperor. It was unstoppable. Heavenly Emperor Yi, Vicious, and Without Beginning, they can't even resist. That gray-robed elder from Fang Jiyuan is already so powerful. What's even more terrifying is that he actually withstood the great karma energy. If that's the case, doesn't that mean he has nothing to fear if he wants to kill us? With a hong noise, the nine-sided cauldron surrounded Yi Fan, Vicious, and Without Beginning. Right at this moment, the expressions of the experts from the other space-time in the darkness prison went rigid. They stared at the gray-robed elder in horror, their mouths wide open. Regardless of whether it was Yi Fan, Vicious, or Without Beginning, they were all unmatched beings in their space-time, yet even after joining hands they still weren't this gray-robed elder's opponent. 111! The nine-sided cauldron trembled. Yi Fan, Vicious, and Without Beginning's figures appeared inside the cauldron. They were burned by the scarlet-black flames produced by the darkness source, as if they were going to be refined into human body pills. Ah! Yi Fan, and without beginning continuously attacked the cauldron walls, all types of emperor techniques continuously displayed. At the same time, they endured the burning pain brought by the scarlet-black flames. Senior brother! Sure Hao cried out anxiously. However, with his current strength, he couldn't help at all, let alone the fact that he was currently being attacked by Grey Emperor and Grand Emperor. If not for the rainbow ripples blocking him, he would have already died who knew how many times. At this moment, he could only unwillingly watch as Yi Fan and the other two were being refined by the darkness origin energy. Good, this really is too good. Now, it seems like not only can we kill Huang, this group of 3 is going to forever remain here. The woman dressed in golden battle clothes and her 2 companions looked at the terrifying 9-sided cauldron, and then at the 3 figures struggling inside, their expressions becoming more and more joyous. Are Celestial Emperor Yi and the others not this elder's opponent? What is going on with Senior Chu? Why isn't he taking action? If he doesn't take action, then who else can eliminate this source of darkness? The butcher, chicken farmer, fake medicine seller, and other ancient immortal kings gave Chu Bei, whose eyes were still tightly shut, a look, muttering to themselves. Their expressions were incomparably ugly. For them, Yi Fan and the other 2 were on the same side as them, yet now, they were defeated. Chapter 497. Combine! Suddenly, there was a loud bang. As the grey-robed elder spat out a word, an unparalleled destructive power of darkness erupted from the 9-sided cauldron. The 2 dimensions shook at the same time. In the next moment, the group of immortal kings in the dark cage, and even people as strong as the golden-robed woman and the other quasi-immortal emperors, were shocked by the power of darkness. Looking closely, the origin energy in the 9-sided cauldron had condensed into a huge sphere. It was crazily devouring the souls and bodies of Yi Fan, Vicious, and No Beginning. As time passed, Yi Fan, Vicious, and No Beginning's auras began to become chaotic, and their bodies became more and more transparent. Even though they were in danger, the 3 of them still used their emperor techniques to resist the power of darkness in the 9-sided cauldron. However, it was to no avail. Although a 3rd-stage quasi-immortal emperor and a 9th-stage quasi-immortal emperor were both quasi-immortal emperors, the former was like a supreme, while the latter was like an immortal king. There was an insurmountable gap between them. As long as I refine all of you into pills, I might have a chance of breaking through to the peak. The grey-robed elder laughed as he endured the great karma. His eyes were filled with passion and anticipation. You've already reached the end of your path by bullying my disciple. How can you talk about taking another step forward? However, just as the grey-robed elder's excited voice fell, an extremely calm voice sounded and drowned out the former. It floated above the realm's sea and in the long river of time. Although this voice was not loud, it shook the deepest part of everyone's heart. It was like a bronze bell shaking in their minds. Then, the 2 dimensions that were originally trembling violently fell silent. Whether it was Yi Fan's epoch or the current epoch, they both fell into dead silence. Everything seemed to have stopped. It was also at this moment that Chu Bei opened his eyes as if he had been released from some kind of restraint. The level 20 goods in the system store were different from the level 19 goods. This level of goods could be opened in 2 stages. When only the first stage was opened, it could be used for a longer time, but its power would be greatly reduced. When the second stage was opened, although the use time would be shortened, its power would be unlocked to the peak. At that moment, the level 20 Immortal Emperor pill that Chu Bei had exchanged for, when the first stage was opened, its strength would be equivalent to a 9th stage quasi-immortal emperor, which was roughly the same as the grey-robed elder. However, after opening the second section, one would truly step into the immortal emperor realm. Kacha, kacha! Before everyone could react from their daze, the black sphere in the 9-sided pill furnace seemed to have been inexplicably bombarded by a terrifying force, and it suddenly split open. Then, the dense power of darkness inside dissipated, and the pill furnace exploded, turning into nothingness amidst the deathly silence. In the next moment, Yi Fan, No Beginning, and Vicious, who were about to completely disappear, were enveloped by a colorful halo. Their bodies became solid again, and their auras gradually stabilized until they recovered to their peak. Old Man Annihilation's pill furnace has disappeared. That's a supreme treasure that can refine 3 quasi-immortal emperors. What the hell is going on? What happened this time? Some immortal kings recovered from their daze and couldn't help but exclaim. In Yi Fan's epic spacetime, the 9-sided cauldron crumbled. This scene shocked everyone. People as strong as Grand Emperor, Emperor Tsang, Emperor Yu, and the woman in gold who came from downstream all revealed expressions of disbelief and couldn't help but be stunned. Not long ago, they'd seen with their own eyes that the 9-sided cauldron suppressed Yi Fan, No Beginning, and Vicious, 3 quasi-mortal emperors, and was even about to completely refine them into Emperor Realm pills. However, it was such an extremely terrifying Emperor weapon that inexplicably cracked into a rain of light until it completely turned into nothingness. As for Yi Fan, Vicious, and No Beginning, who were originally on the verge of dissipating, they recovered at an extremely fast speed, and their auras returned to their peak. This had happened one after another in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, and they found it hard to accept and unimaginable. Buzz! Amidst the rumbling, the pill furnace completely disappeared, and all the immortal kings and quasi-immortal emperors were jolted awake. When they recalled the extremely calm voice that had sounded directly in the depths of their minds earlier, they all looked in the direction of Chu Bei. With this look, all of their expressions changed. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, stupefied, a look of shock on their faces. It was as if they were struck by lightning, as if they were wooden sculptures. In that instant, everyone's eyes focused on Chu Bei's body, all of them entering a daze, becoming numb. The group of immortal kings and quasi-immortal emperors all muttered, unable to say complete words. Right now, when they looked at Chu Bei, they actually found it a bit hard to see him clearly. To be more precise, the other party was like an illusion in their eyes, giving them a type of misconception that he was always changing. There were immortal kings who saw him. Raging flames burned around him, containing Emperor Dao laws, the color of the flames continuously changing. He was like the source of the flames, directly burning the realm sea below into nothingness. There were immortal kings who saw him. He was resplendent and dazzling, without a true body, as if he was condensed from light, similarly containing Emperor Dao's supreme laws. These light atoms were like mischievous children, continuously evolving into all things. There were archaic divine beasts, archaic immortal weapons, bejeweled buildings and jade pavilions, irregular scenes appearing all over the place. There were immortal kings who saw him. With a point of his finger, he moved the realm sea, producing all methods of the heavens, accompanied by the great river of time. There were immortal kings who saw him, accompanied by 9 heavens' thunder. Black, purple, green, and all types of lightning covered this place, to the extent where there were even some lightning that produced the appearance of archaic divine beasts. With just a single look, they couldn't help but bow down in worship, as if he was an even higher level celestial emperor Yi. There were immortal kings who saw him. White radiance spread all around him, extending in the void chaotic space like a spiderweb, making it split apart and then heal again, repeating this process over and over again. In the realm sea, the group of immortal kings and quasi-immortal emperors in different space-time widened their eyes, looking at Chu Bei in a daze, entering a daze. This scene was too strange. That person was clearly right before their eyes, but no matter what divine abilities they displayed, they couldn't break through the continuously overlapping and interweaving illusions. What exactly is going on? Right when Grey Emperor frowned and said this, with a wing noise, the illusions disappeared. Chu Bei's figure clearly appeared before everyone's line of sight. The current him had no aura at all, no energy fluctuations at all. Only, upon closer inspection, there were specks of multicolored light jumping about all over his body. Even though those multicolored specks of light didn't look all that remarkable, every single one of them, each time they jumped, they would produce millions upon millions of great Tao flowers, as well as produce endless star domains and stellar streams. Of course, regardless of whether it was the great Tao flowers or the star domains and stellar streams, they were all contained within those tiny specks of light. Even if one was as powerful as immortal kings and quasi-immortal emperors, if they didn't carefully sense those specks of light, it would be hard for them to detect them. Chu Bei was expressionless, no emotional fluctuations visible on his face, like an ancient well without any ripples. His expression was incomparably indifferent, as if nothing here could tug at his heartstrings. He looked towards the darkness prison. He clearly didn't do anything, yet the darkness prison condensed by Grey Emperor, Feather Emperor, and Grand Emperor, 3 quasi-immortal emperors, exploded with a great noise, turning into a rain of light. The restrictive force disappeared. The imprisoned ancient immortal kings and immortal kings from a different space-time looked at the prison that was turned into nothingness. They were first stunned, and then they revealed excited expressions, extremely moved. Shattered, the darkness prison shattered. Ha! It was released. We are saved, we don't have to worry about being corroded by darkness force, becoming creatures of darkness. It's Senior Chu. He took action to save us. What exactly happened to Senior Chu's body? It is as if he became a different person. My intuition is telling me that he became even stronger. The immortal kings who were saved snapped out of their daze one after another, starting to cry out in alarm. Then, as if they reached an agreement, they all bowed deeply towards Chu Bei, their eyes carrying deep gratitude and respect. Chu Bei gave these bowing immortal kings an indifferent look. After nodding slightly in response, he then looked towards the 3 quasi-immortal emperors from the future Great Era who were determined to kill Shi Hao. Walala, Chu Bei still didn't do anything, but the great river of time beneath the 3 quasi-immortal emperors' feet roared intensely. Then, with a hum noise, the great river of time collapsed, turned into nothingness by a wave of incomparably terrifying power. As for the 3 quasi-immortal emperors from the future Great Era, at this moment, they were forcibly dragged out from their space-time by a formless force, descending into the space-time where the grey-robed Elder, Grand Emperor, and the others were. What was even more terrifying was that the great river of time collapsed, they couldn't return. This is impossible. He cut off our space-time's great river of time, we can't return, forever trapped in this space-time. How did he do this? The great river of time collapsed. The woman dressed in golden battle clothes and her 2 companions looked at Chu Bei with incomparable horror. As quasi-immortal emperors, they could wantonly wander the great river of time, head to the past, present, and future. However, just now, the great river of time with their imprints scattered, their connection with the space-time they were in was severed. To put it simply, right now, they didn't belong to the lower reaches of the great river, but belonged to this great era of space-time. Attack first! The golden-robed woman and the other 2 were worthy of being quasi-immortal emperors who had experienced countless great eras. After exchanging a glance with each other, they quickly calmed down. Then, the 3 of them executed Supreme Emperor techniques at the same time, attacking Chu Bei. Now, they belonged to the same space-time, no longer having to worry about the backlash of great karma, so they used their strongest killing moves right away. Rumble! The sky collapsed, the realm sea churned, all kinds of Supreme Emperor runes appeared, dazzling and resplendent. However, before the terrifying Emperor techniques of the golden-robed woman and the other 2 could reach Chu Bei, the other party suddenly disappeared into thin air, as if he had suddenly evaporated, as if he had never appeared. Seeing this scene, the pupils of the golden-robed woman and the other 2 suddenly constricted, their expressions changing drastically, filled with deep shock. But before they could cry out in alarm, a beam of colorful ripples swept over. In an instant, the Emperor aura in their bodies was purified, the Emperor power completely disappeared, instantly turning them from quasi-immortal emperors who looked down on eternity into ordinary people. When they sensed the disappearance of the Emperor power in their bodies, the expressions of the golden-robed woman and the other 2 immediately became ugly to the extreme, their eyes even more so filled with deep fear. "What did you do to us?" The golden-robed woman forcefully suppressed the fear in her heart, her eyes looking straight at the distant Chu Bei. Even though the other party didn't do anything, she was sure that the disappearance of the emperor power in their bodies was definitely related to him. Chu Bei didn't pay the golden-robed woman any attention. When he turned around to look in Shao's direction, the golden-robed woman and her two companions' bodies mysteriously produced multicolored specks of light. The multicolored specks of light swirled about, releasing multicolored threads. They connected with each other, immediately forming an independent multicolored space, surrounding the golden-robed woman and the other two within. Chapter 498. Ah! The golden-clothed woman's brows furrowed tightly. Without the slightest hesitation, she immediately clenched her fist, smashing it into the multicolored cage's barrier. However, the instant her fist made contact with the barrier, a miserable scream sounded from her mouth. Only to see that her body was corroded by the terrifying power of the multicolored ripples, only half of her soul and flesh remaining. When they saw this scene, the other two half-immortal emperors who came from the future together with the golden-clothed woman immediately took 2 steps back, standing in the center of the prison. Their expressions were full of fear, fearing that they would touch the multicolored barrier. They were half-immortal emperors, standing at the very peak of cultivation. In their eyes, immortal kings were all ants. However, when they sensed the aura released by the multicolored specks of light, they instinctively felt fear and pressure. Even though the emperor force within their bodies disappeared, their flesh's strength was still half-immortal emperor physique. However, despite this being the case, just a moment ago, not only did the golden-clothed woman's body explode, even half of her soul was corroded away. It was incomparably terrifying. "Master!" When he saw Chu Bei look towards him, Shao's expression was exceptionally moved. He immediately cupped his fists, shouting out, "N." When he heard Shao's shout, this time, Chu Bei finally expressed something, nodding slightly in response. Then, he looked in the direction of Grand Emperor. When they faced the indifferent gaze Chu Bei cast over, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor and Feather Emperor's bodies trembled at the same time, subconsciously condensing darkness force and emperor force to the extreme, all of them becoming incredibly vigilant. They clearly couldn't sense Chu Bei's aura fluctuations, yet they mysteriously felt a wave of chilliness. "Attack together!" Just like the golden-clothed woman's group of 3, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor and Feather Emperor also took action. Perhaps because they learned from the golden-clothed woman's group of 3, Grand Emperor's group of 3 didn't attack individually, instead merging their attacks together, forming an unmatched killing move. Immediately afterwards, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor and Feather Emperor released immortal light at the same time, distorting space. Primal chaos collapsed, condensing darkness force, producing an incomparably massive darkness longsword. This sword swirled with yin and yang energies, the black radiance released from the sword tip producing Kunpeng, True Phoenix, Lightning Emperor and countless other divine beast irregular scenes. Chi! The darkness longsword shot out, carrying heaven overflowing dark power, carrying Emperor aura, power matchless. Bang! In the blink of an eye, the black longsword appeared in front of Chu Bei. However, just as it was about to strike Chu Bei's body, it suddenly stopped. It was as if it had been fixed in place, and did not move at all. Following that, with a crisp cracking sound, the dark longsword shattered into countless tiny fragments. Puff! Puff! At the same time, Grand Emperor, Grey Emperor, and Feather Emperor's faces paled. They spat out resplendent blood from their mouths, releasing dazzling light. Before their chaotic auras could stabilize, a colorful ripple palm slapped them, and with a rumble, it slapped them into the colorful ripple cage where the golden-robed woman and the other two were. The 3 half-immortal emperors from the lower reaches, as well as Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor, and Emperor Yu, they were all defeated. I can't even put up the slightest resistance in front of Senior Chu. Speaking of which, what happened to Senior Chu? How strong is he now? Perhaps Senior's current strength is already comparable to the first Emperor of the Primal Chaos. Looking at Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor, and Emperor Yu, who were badly mutilated by the palm, the experts from another space-time, the ancient immortal king, the butcher, Hong Tian, and the other experts were all shocked. At the same time, joy appeared on their faces. Chu Bei's sudden strength had changed the situation of the battlefield, allowing them to see hope again. It's your turn. Chu Bei looked at the gray-robed old man with a calm expression. His voice was emotionless. Hearing this, the gray-robed old man frowned. His expression was extremely solemn, and one could faintly see some vigilance in his eyes. The nine-sided pill furnace that could refine half-immortal emperors was his emperor weapon. He had refined it with his emperor's power and the power of darkness for thousands of eras. No one knew better than him how terrifying the nine-sided pill furnace was. Not to mention a third heaven half-immortal emperor, even an eighth heaven half-immortal emperor would find it difficult to resist. The only difference was the time it took to refine it. However, to his disbelief, this emperor artifact that he'd refined for countless epochs had been inexplicably blasted apart by an invisible force, and not even a scrap of it remained. What made the gray-robed old man feel the most incredulous was naturally Chu Bei's terrifying strength that had suddenly increased by countless times. A true emperor? Finally, the gray-robed old man spoke with a probing tone in his voice. Meeting the gray-robed old man's gaze, Chu Bei smiled and did not respond. He only raised his hand and slapped out. Let the darkness descend in advance! Seeing Chu Bei raise his right hand, the gray-robed old man's eyes narrowed. As he shouted, the rich power of darkness surged out from his body. In an instant, the chaotic world sea erupted. Endless dark aura peeled off from the sea and surged toward the gray-robed old man. At some point, a wooden box appeared in the gray-robed old man's hand. It was the source of the power of darkness. Oh no! With a cry of alarm, the expressions of the experts from another space-time and the ancient immortal kings in the distance changed drastically at the same time. The entire realm sea was filled with darkness. All kinds of terrifying and strange runes lingered in the darkness. Even as strong as they were, they felt an inexplicable sense of fear. This was not only the power of darkness that could erode their souls, but it also contained an extremely terrifying emperor's power. Under such an aura, they could not summon any will to resist. Condense! The gray-robed old man looked coldly at Chu Bei. With a cold shout, the wooden box that was the source of the darkness rumbled and suppressed Chu Bei with a monstrous might. The moment the wooden box blasted out, Yi Fan, vicious, and no beginnings expressions froze. Even though they were separated by the river of time, they were still affected by the power in the black wooden box. The Emperor's power in their bodies circulated slowly. Butcher, chicken farmer, fake medicine seller, Hong Tian, willow deity, and many other immortal kings felt extremely suffocated at this moment. It was an instinctive fear, and they could not summon any will to resist. The so-called pursuit of the Emperor's path in the darkness, he is just using you. Chu Bei spoke again. His voice was still calm. The words from his mouth seemed to be said to the gray-robed old man, but also seemed to be said to everyone, including Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor, and others. With a buzzing sound, colorful light burst out from Chu Bei's body. The darkness that enveloped the entire realm sea instantly disappeared and was replaced by light. The black wooden box smashed over. Chu Bei reached out his hand to meet it, casually catching it. Then, with a slight force, the black wooden box exploded with a bang, and a cloud of turbid energy flew out. However, before the turbid energy could escape, a giant colorful palm wrapped around it, and with a sizzling sound, it was forcefully obliterated into nothingness. Sizzle! 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 As that cloud of turbid energy collapsed, the gray-robed old man, Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor, Feather Emperor, as well as the countless creatures in Realm Sea who were tainted by darkness energy all had surging black mist seep out from their bodies, all the way until they disappeared. Almost at the same time, the eyes of those creatures who were lost in the sea began to clear, as if they gained their own consciousness, creating waves in the sea. There were some creatures with higher cultivation realms who seemed to know something. They leapt out of the sea surface, releasing sounds of gratitude towards Chu Bei's direction. "This is, the source of darkness has been dealt with." Looking at the changes in the creatures in Realm C, butcher, chicken farmer, and fake medicine seller were first stunned, and then they exchanged a look. When they reacted, they were all extremely excited. That half-immortal emperor from the age of Emperor Collapse who had turned into flames and was about to die at any time, and Willow Deity, after giving Chu Bei a look, couldn't help but mutter to themselves, as if they felt a type of release. "Ha ha, Senior Chu did it! The great era of darkness will never descend again. We don't have to worry about that darkness matter invading immortal domain anymore. Their source has been dealt with by Senior Chu." The millions and millions of cultivators in immortal domain also understood. They all raised their heads, looking at the scene in the sky dome, shouting crazily in excitement. Impossible! Seeing the black wooden chest shatter, the gray-robed elder felt like he had lost the most important thing, immediately going crazy. He roared, attacking Chu Bei again. Incomparably terrifying emperor power evolved into all types of divine abilities, covering heaven and earth as they surged towards Chu Bei, about to drown him out. Forget about 9th layer, even if you are at the consummate level, before this seat, you are no different from an ant. Facing the gray-robed elder's crazy attacks, Chu Bei's expression didn't show the slightest trace of fear. As his indifferent voice fell, Chu Bei flicked his finger, a divine rainbow formed from interweaving rainbow-colored specks of light shot out. Wherever it passed, the gray-robed elder's attacks turned into nothingness, completely scattering. Hong Long! Without any obstruction, the rainbow-colored divine rainbow appeared in front of the gray-robed elder, transforming into a palm. It picked him up and threw him into the rainbow-colored prison where Grand Emperor, Emperor Tsang, and the others were. Seeing this scene, whether it was the immortal kings or the quasi-immortal emperors, their expressions froze. In particular, Yi Fan, Vicious, and No Sure, the three quasi-immortal emperors who had personally experienced the terror of the gray-robed elder, were even more dumbfounded. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. The gray-robed elder who had almost killed them couldn't resist the rainbow-colored palm at all. Like a little chick, he was lifted by the neck and thrown into the prison just like that. This process was too sudden, so they couldn't react in time. Originally, they thought that the battle between Chu Bei and the gray-robed elder would be earth-shattering and terrifying. In the end, they didn't expect it to end like this. "Yi Zi, could this master of yours really be that legendary impossible existence?" No Sure sucked in a breath of cold air as he looked at Yi Fan who was beside him. From start to finish, the power that Chu Bei displayed was simply too shocking. Even a 9th stage realm quasi-immortal emperor didn't have any way to resist him. To be able to do this, it was probably only those legendary immortal emperors in the truest sense. "Every single time I feel that I can see through Master, he always surprises me. Time and time again, I really don't know when I will be able to chase up to his footsteps." Yi Fan looked at Chu Bei's back view as he shook his head, as though he was mocking himself. With a wave of his hand, he sent the Emperor Origins of the Grey-Robed Elder, Emperor Tsang, and Grand Emperor into Yi Fan's epic. These Emperor essences were pure and could be directly refined by a half-immortal Emperor. "Disciple thanks Master!" Yi Fan took the Emperor's origin from the Grey-Robed Elder and bowed deeply to Chu Bei before beginning to refine it. "Junior thanks Senior!" No Beginning and Vicious received the Grand Emperor's and Grey Emperor's monarch origins. They were stunned for a moment, but when they felt the pure energy within, they exchanged a glance with each other, excitement written all over their faces. Buzz buzz buzz, soon Yi Fan's epic began to buzz. After refining the Emperor's origin, the Emperor's aura in their bodies surged and showed signs of exploding. "We're about to break through." Sensing the crazy growth of the Emperor's origin in their bodies, Yi Fan, No Beginning, and Vicious faces were brimming with excitement. At their level, it was extremely difficult to take another step forward. It would take at least a few epochs to settle down. Especially when they were stuck at the threshold of the third stage, it was even more difficult to step into the fourth stage. Cultivators who could step into this realm were all outstanding figures who had lived for hundreds of millions of years. However, there were still at least half of them who could never step into the fourth stage in their entire lives. This showed how difficult it was to enter the fourth stage from the third stage. But now, with the integration of the human emperor's origin, the bottleneck that they had been stuck at for countless years loosened. Of course, refining the emperor's origin was the only way for a half-immortal emperor to quickly increase their cultivation. However, it was almost impossible to directly refine the emperor's origin of a half-immortal emperor in the same realm. Even someone as strong as the gray-robed old man in the ninth stage couldn't do it. He could only use the human body refinement pill to increase his cultivation. However, the effect of the latter was far from being comparable to directly refining the emperor's origin. As the first person to quell the source of disaster, I will also give you an opportunity and help you reconstruct your origin. Chu Bei looked at the half-immortal emperor who was left with a wisp of remnant soul that had turned into flames. With a wave of his sleeve, countless colorful light spots surrounded the latter, releasing a blinding emperor's light. In an instant, under everyone's gaze, the ball of flames that could disappear at any time began to grow stronger and burn fiercely. The great Tao rumbled. Within the flames, a human figure became more and more solid until it completely took shape. Gradually, those colorful light spots also merged into the body of the figure along with the blazing flames. He looked no different from an ordinary person. Feather Emperor's origin of emperor flew in front of him. After receiving it, he gave Chu Bei a deep bow, and then began to refine it. Chu Bei looked towards Willow Deity. He didn't say anything, the colorful specks of light surrounding it, making it radiate life force once more. Moreover, he bestowed the emperor's origin of the half-immortal emperor Lower Reach's golden-clothed woman. The three of you are only a step away from breaking through, so this great one will lend you a bit of help. Chu Bei divided the emperor's origin of the other half-immortal emperor into three, separately gifting them to the butcher, chicken farmer, and fake medicine seller, these three peak half-immortal kings. Many thanks to Great One. The butcher and the other two received the emperor's origin. Even though what they obtained wasn't complete, for them, it was enough. Disciple, you should keep this final lump of emperor's origin, save it for when you need it in the future. After gifting the others with opportunities, Chu Bei looked towards Shi Hao, waving the final half-immortal emperor's origin in front of Shi Hao. Many thanks to Master. Unlike the others, Shi Hao still didn't reach the conditions to refine the emperor's origin, so he stored it in the small world he established. After doing all of this, Chu Bei then looked towards the rainbow prison, his eyes narrowing. The instant the two streaks of light shot out, the rainbow prison quickly shrunk. In the end, with a hum noise, it exploded into an endless rain of rainbow-colored light. Above Realm Sea, a rainbow-colored rain of light scattered down, all types of emperor images appearing. What disappeared along with the rainbow-colored prison was the gray-robed elder, gray emperor, feather emperor, grand emperor, and others' figures. Dead. Did they all die? While looking at the rainbow-colored rain of light, as well as the gray-robed elder and others who disappeared, there were experts from different space-time and ancient immortal kings who reacted, crying out in alarm. A long time later, countless immortal king experts snapped out of their daze. In that instant, Realm Sea became noisy. It's over. It really is over. The creatures of darkness half-immortal emperors are all dead. We are truly safe. From now on, there is no need for the era of darkness to descend anymore. I really didn't dare to imagine that Senior Chu was actually a true immortal emperor. According to my guess, Senior Chu was born before the primal chaos began. It's too terrifying. The cultivators of the immortal realm looked at the scene in the sky, their gazes fixed on Chu Bei. One by one, they began to run and cheer, their eyes filled with respect. As time passed, amidst the world-shaking phenomenon, Yi Fan, No Beginning, Vicious, Willow Deity, and the other experts who had refined the Emperor's source broke through one after another. Yi Fan, no beginning, vicious, and the half-immortal Emperor from the era of Emperor Collapse all crossed the threshold of the third stage, especially Yi Fan, who directly stepped into the fifth stage of the half-immortal Emperor realm. Willow Deity, Butcher, Chicken Farmer, Fake Medicine Seller, the four peak half-immortal kings also took the final step and stepped into the Emperor's domain, becoming half-immortal emperors. "Thank you, Master!" "Thank you, Senior!" These people looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. At the same time, they bowed to Chu Bei with deep gratitude on their faces. Chu Bei nodded slightly in response. Then, he looked toward the end of the chaotic realm sea and continued on his way. Wasn't the source of darkness already dealt with? Those dark emperors were also all killed. Isn't it already over? Why is Senior Chu still continuing? Isn't this chaotic Star Island domain already the end of the realm sea? Looking at Chu Bei's back view gradually getting further and further away, the group of immortal kings was shocked and looked at each other. When they came back to their senses, they immediately followed. Could it be that this is still not the end of the realm sea? The group of immortal kings and half-immortal emperors followed behind Chu Bei and murmured, "Wah!" As they went deeper, a terrifying howl sounded in this chaotic Star Island domain, like the cry of evil spirits. Then, the calm sea surface started to wind again. This was no ordinary wind, but a hurricane formed by Dao runes that swept over. It was an astonishing power that was terrifying to the extreme. Even people as powerful as Yi Fan, no beginning, and the others had no choice but to release their emperor power to resist. As for those immortal kings, if not for the protection of the Butcher, the Fake Medicine Seller, Willow Deity, and the other half-immortal emperors, they would already be unable to move an inch. "Don't go any further." At this moment, a low and cold voice sounded out of thin air. The source of the voice couldn't be found. "Who is it?" Hearing this, the group of experts frowned. Crack, crack. Not long after, a series of crisp sounds sounded in everyone's ears. The sky that Chu Bei had repaired collapsed again. Not only that, but looking around, this chaotic Star Island domain that contained supreme and terrifying energy was actually falling apart. Seeing this scene, the group of immortal kings and half-immortal emperors trembled. The scene before them was too shocking and horrifying. This method, Yi Fan, vicious, and no beginning looked at each other, and their expressions became even more serious. How terrifying was this chaotic Star Island? Even with their current strength, it was absolutely impossible for them to split it into several pieces. In their opinion, even the gray-robed old man at the 9th stage realm couldn't do it. Could it be that there's a real immortal emperor ahead? Just like Senior Chu. Thinking of this possibility, Vicious, no beginning, and the other half-immortal emperors frowned deeply and couldn't help but become vigilant. Rumble! Just as countless experts were guessing, the chaotic Star Island that had turned into hundreds and thousands of pieces suddenly went berserk. It was as if they had received some kind of instruction as they charged towards the group of powerhouses from all directions. Chapter 500. Oh no! The group of quasi-immortal emperors behind Chu Bei sensed the terrifying energy contained in the shattered chaotic realm sea, and their expressions changed. Perhaps they could still protect themselves, but those immortal kings definitely had no chance of survival. Fortunately, just as the group of immortal kings felt fear in their hearts, the colorful ripples around Chu Bei, who was at the front, spread out. He stood in the air, and the colorful ripples kept spreading with him as the center, blocking the fragments of the chaotic realm sea that came from all directions. The two collided, and the void buzzed. They were in a stalemate, and consumed each other's energy. Don't go any further. Leave. At this moment, the low and cold voice sounded in everyone's minds again, as if warning and comforting them. Chu Bei ignored it. He put his hands behind his back, looked ahead, and continued forward. Although Yi Fan, Wu Shi, and the others were afraid, they couldn't stop their curiosity. In addition, with Chubei around, they followed closely. Rumble! Suddenly, a black bolt of lightning descended from the sky, blocking Chubei's path. The aura of this black lightning was even more terrifying than the heavenly punishment that quasi-immortal emperors had experienced. It had a world-destroying aura, and the terrifying lightning fell like a waterfall. Looking carefully, there was a stone tablet in the lightning. There were 5 bright words carved on the tablet, and they could be seen clearly. The opportunity to become an emperor! Seeing the 5 words on the tablet, some immortal kings couldn't help but exclaim. Look! The dark matter has appeared again. What's going on? Hasn't the source been destroyed? Could it be that the 9th stage quasi-immortal emperor and the rotten wooden box are not the source of the dark matter? The group of immortal kings stared at the stone tablet in the lightning. When they felt the dark aura released by it, their expressions suddenly froze. The butcher, willow deity, chicken farmer, and the others also frowned, and their expressions were extremely ugly. If you don't leave now, you will never be able to leave. The low and long sigh sounded again, like some kind of obsession, echoing in everyone's ears. At the same time, scenes from the past appeared around the stone tablet. The Grey-robed Elder, Feather Emperor, Grey Emperor, and Grand Emperor had all lingered about this place. They stared at the monument for a long time, and in the end, they seemed to have comprehended something, leaving with happy expressions. It was also after that Emperor Yu and Emperor Tsung killed their descendants one after another, burying cultivators in one stellar region after another. Do you think I still need the opportunity you gave me? Chubei glanced at the stone tablet with disdain. He reached out with his right hand and pressed down. With a boom, the stone tablet and the rolling lightning easily shattered. Regardless of whether it was the Grey-robed Elder, Emperor Tsung, Emperor Yu, or Grand Emperor, they had all been bewitched by these 3 words and turned to cultivate the power of darkness. We've reached the end. There's no path left. After shattering the stone steel, the group followed Chubei and continued their journey. But not long after, the primal chaos boundary wall appeared, and there was no way out. Bang! Right when countless experts were at a loss, Chubei's fist smashed out. Following an explosion sound, the primal chaos boundary wall collapsed. Right at this moment, everyone's pupils suddenly contracted. On the other side of this so-called end was an island. On the island, black mist surging violently. The density of the darkness matter was even greater than the wooden chest the Grey-robed Elder held before, almost condensing into a liquid state. Could it be that this is the true source of darkness? The group of experts were stupefied. Only to see great Tao symbols float in the black mist, containing unmatched profound mysteries. This was something that exceeded half-immortal emperor level. Hong Long! Another loud noise sounded. The dark island shook, endless light erupting from its depths. That type of power made one's heart tremble, even half-immortal emperors were moved. It contained the aura of immortal emperors, divine might matchless. Could it be that there are immortal emperors living on that island? Yi Fan, Wushi, and the others' expressions became serious. If it really was as they guessed, then all of this still wasn't over. Perhaps there would be a true battle between immortal emperors next. Thinking of this possibility, Yi Fan, Wushi, and the others couldn't help but gasp as they looked at Chubei's back, some worry appearing in their eyes. Perhaps you can succeed. The low voice that had appeared many times before sounded in everyone's consciousness again. What was different was that this time, a ball of light appeared in front of Chubei. A living being was wrapped in the ball of light, shrouded in light mist. He sat there cross-legged, suddenly opening his eyes, giving off an incomparably mysterious feeling. A damaged immortal emperor's divine soul? Sensing the living being's aura, Yi Fan and Wushi guessed. The other party's strength was clearly above theirs, but the energy contained within was not far above theirs, which was why they had this guess. I am a remnant soul, and also a wisp of origin spirit imprint. The living being in the ball of light spoke. His gaze fell on Chubei. You are very strong. Perhaps you can really survive. Chubei smiled and didn't say anything. he stepped onto the dark island. After being stunned for a moment, the group of experts immediately followed, also stepping onto the dark island. For them, in this kind of place, following Chu Bei was the safest. The Dark Island, the true end of the Realm Sea, was also known as the ancient final destination. There is a living being there! The group of half-immortal emperors and immortal kings followed closely behind Chu Bei. When they stepped onto the island, the ancient final destination shook violently, as if a great earthquake had occurred. Then, an immortal king's mouth opened wide, crying out in alarm. They saw that in the depths of the island, the dark matter was dense, and a hazy figure could be faintly seen. Although they couldn't see its specific appearance, they could make out its rough outline. It was a huge humanoid creature. He sat cross-legged on a black rock, his body incomplete, not moving at all. Bang! Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and a boundless colorful light burst forth, instantly dispersing the dark matter around the humanoid creature. In the next moment, the group of experts completely saw that humanoid creature. His entire body was pitch black, his body rotten, and was continuously emitting dense black mist. That was a corpse. He was extremely damaged, as if he was torn apart, splitting apart from his head, extending all the way to his abdomen. The upper half of his body was missing, for example, half a head, left arm, left leg, and other parts. Emperor corpse! Turns out he is the true source of darkness. The group of experts stared blankly at the black mist released from the ruined corpse, their pupils suddenly contracting, carrying shock. No, he is breathing, he is still alive! Without beginning said. He clearly saw that Emperor Corpse's mouth open and close. When it absorbed, that was the life energy of great star domains, but when it spat out, it was indeed the terrifying dark matter that corroded one's soul. You killed them, you deserve death! A dignified voice sounded from the depths of the island, intimidating everyone's souls. The voice drifted about. The island rumbled, the thick black mist releasing strange buzzing noises. Then, that Emperor Corpse moved. He raised his head, his eyes releasing two beams of resplendent light, scarlet red like blood, gushing out like a large expanse of scarlet flames, horrifying one's mind. Meeting those two beams of light, the group of experts trembled. Under those terrifying eyes, it was like there was a will that wanted to control their bodies, wanting to destroy their souls. Fortunately, just as their souls were on the verge of collapse, a clear energy brushed past their bodies, cleansing the energy in the Emperor Corpse's eyes. The Emperor Corpse looked at Chu Bei, killing intent condensing into substance. With him as the center, extremely dense dark energy burst forth, covering the sky and surging towards Chu Bei. Chu Bei was expressionless. At the same time, rainbow light curled around his body, interweaving into a beautiful divine rainbow that welcomed the rolling black mist. 1-1. With a loud rumble, ancient final destination split into two halves. In the sky above the Emperor Corpse's half, black mist curled up, one couldn't even see one's fingers, so dark that it made one's hair stand on end. On the other hand, the half of the island where Chu Bei and the group of experts were located was filled with colorful divine light. At this moment, the huge ancient final destination seemed to have become a perfectly round sphere. Half of it was black light, the other half was rainbow light, the two fighting and interweaving. Clang! With a metallic ringing sound, a sword core shot out from the black mist, splitting the heavens and bringing with it a loud noise, hacking towards Chu Bei. Wherever the sword embryo passed, the boundless dark matter immediately turned into a shocking storm, forming all kinds of chaotic ancient beasts. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, attacking Chu Bei. That's a real emperor weapon! Feeling the aura coming from the sword embryo, the experts' faces changed drastically. Even though the sword embryo's aura wasn't directed at them, they felt a chill run down their spines and couldn't muster up any will to resist. As for Chu Bei, he remained silent. He glanced at the sword embryo indifferently, clenched his fist, and punched out. Rumble! Amidst the explosion, a colorful fist mark covered in emperor runes intertwined and collided with the sword embryo. You've also become an emperor! How can another immortal emperor be born in this big region? The emperor corpse seemed to have realized Chu Bei's fighting strength, and there was a hint of surprise in his cold voice. You've killed too many. It's time for you to sleep forever, Chu Bei replied, his voice emotionless. Those who offend me can only die. The emperor corpse suddenly stood up from the black rock, and the gaze it looked at Chu Bei with became even colder. In the next moment, with an earth-shattering roar, the emperor corpse's eyes shot out two golden divine rainbows, entangling the living being in the light not far behind Chu Bei. You and I are of the same origin. It's time for us to become one, said the emperor corpse. The living being in the light shouted. He tried his best to resist, but he was only able to hold on for a moment before he was forcefully dragged into the emperor corpse's body by the two divine rainbows. I'm still me, but you're no longer me. A faint sigh sounded. It was the voice of the primordial spirit imprint. No matter how much we've changed, we're still one. This is an indisputable fact. The emperor corpse's black light flickered. As the cold voice sounded, his body became complete. The rotten parts were repaired, and his aura rose. He was simply a living and powerful existence. You're also an immortal emperor. You've come here to quell the source of darkness. This darkness is produced in your body, but you don't know that someone as strong as me is also a victim of this darkness. This was the primordial spirit imprint talking to Chu Bei. At this point, he slapped the black stone behind him. With a bang, the black stone exploded. It was earth-shattering, and immortal emperor runes bloomed in the sky. Just as the black stone turned into powder, thunder rumbled in the turbid sky, and dense divine chains of order appeared. Among them, there was a hole, and black clouds were churning in the hole. The scary thing was that there were sparkling droplets floating in the black clouds. They were like black blood droplets, and it seemed like they would drip down at any time. Mission 6 issued. Host has cleared the path to heaven. Mission reward. After the host unlocks the level 16 commodity authority, his cultivation will be directly raised to the peak of level 16. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Chapter 501. What kind of place is that? The group of experts stared at the pitch-black hole above their heads in astonishment. Endless terrifying laws seeped out from that place, possessing an aura that made one tremble. Rumble! A loud sound rang out. A stone stele fell from the hole, 16 large words clearly engraved on it. Above the heavens, eternity exists, reincarnation is difficult to overturn, a supreme land. Back then, after I stepped into the immortal emperor realm, I came to the end of this realm sea. However, because my emperor realm hadn't stabilized, that drop of blood invaded my body. Even someone as strong as me was corrupted. That primordial spirit imprint continued. What? This emperor corpse isn't the source of the darkness. Even he was corrupted by the darkness? Then where exactly is the source of the darkness? Is it that hole? Above the heavens? What kind of existence is there? Hearing the words of that primordial spirit imprint, the group of half-immortal emperors and immortal kings instantly revealed looks of disbelief. When they looked at that terrifying pitch-black hole again, they couldn't help but gasp, their hearts trembling. If what the other party said was true, then this drop of black blood was too terrifying. It could even corrupt immortal emperors. You've said enough, you can shut up now! Suddenly, the emperor corpse's cold voice covered the primordial spirit imprint's voice. At the same time, dense killing intent surged towards Chu Bei. Those who offend this emperor die! This was that emperor corpse speaking. His pupils turned pitch black holes. With just a glance, even immortal kings would lose their minds, incomparably terrifying. With a wing sound, that sword core flew into the emperor corpse's hand, erupting with endless light, emitting immortal emperor aura. Kill! A cold voice sounded. The Emperor Corpse held the sword core with both hands, suddenly slashing at Chu Bei. In an instant, the originally clamorous ancient Final Destination became quiet. Including Yifan, Wu Shi, and the others, the group of experts immediately flew out of the ancient Final Destination, watching from the distant sea region, fearing that they would be affected by the battle between the two immortal emperors. In reality, this wasn't the case. The main reason was because the Emperor Corpse and Chu Bei compressed their power in this ancient Final Destination, otherwise, there wouldn't be a single safe place in this entire realm sea. Rumble! The sword core shone resplendently. Its sharp aura tore apart the primal chaos above the ancient land. Its might was extremely powerful. At the tip of the sword there was a river of time and all kinds of immortal emperor runes intertwining. This was the true power of an immortal emperor. His might was released, boundless and immeasurable. Chu Bei didn't try to dodge this attack. He calmly met it head-on. At the same time, a long sword appeared in his hand. The hilt of the sword was interwoven with the power of faith of the heavens, while the body of the sword was interwoven with hundreds of millions of great Tao profundities. Clang! When the two immortal emperor weapons collided, a dazzling sword light burst out, destroying the heaven and earth. The stalemate lasted for a long time. With a crisp cracking sound, a crack appeared on the sword embryo. It was also at this moment that the great Emperor Corpse's hair stood on end. A trace of ice-cold sword edge touched his body. Chi La! The Emperor Corpse's right arm was cut open, blood splashing in all directions, making the sky dome collapse. This was his immortal emperor blood. The Emperor Corpse's expression became even more unsightly. The immortal light around his body became even more resplendent. He retracted the sword embryo and once again smashed towards the long sword in Chu Bei's hand. But this time, the instant they collided, the sword embryo in the Emperor Corpse's hand broke. Then, that strange long sword in his line of sight directly pierced over. The Emperor Corpse's heart sank, as if he felt the threat of death. His figure immediately disappeared from his original spot, appearing at the end of the realm sea in another direction. However, what made his heart palpitate was that the long sword also followed closely behind. Chi La! The Emperor Corpse's pupils suddenly constricted. All the immortal emperor power in his body surged into his fists, using it to block that long sword. But the result was extremely powerless. That long sword easily cut open the Emperor Corpse's fists, and then cut him in half at the waist. Blood spurted out. What made the Emperor Corpse even more terrified was that before his upper and lower body could recombine, a formless immortal emperor power forcefully dragged him back to the ancient Final Destination. Then, a figure appeared in front of him, clenching his fists. Boom! Chu Bei quickly punched out, each of his fists fiercely landing on the Emperor Corpse's body, containing terrifying immortal emperor power. In just a few seconds, the Emperor Corpse was completely blown apart by Chu Bei. His body was torn into pieces, constantly exploding into pieces of flesh and blood, bringing along a rain of blood as they exploded in the surroundings. The blazing battle's aftermath would occasionally spread out of the ancient Final Destination, dazzling and resplendent. The group of experts could no longer stay in the same place, and could only continue to retreat, looking for a safe place. Senior Chu, he's so terrifying. They're both immortal emperors, but there's such a big gap between them. Fortunately, the one who has the advantage is Senior Chu. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. After the group of experts saw the situation on the battlefield clearly, they looked at each other in dismay. No, impossible! The Emperor Corpse muttered. The Emperor Corpse muttered to itself. Its gaze towards Chu Bei was filled with disbelief and astonishment. He could not deduce his opponent's past, and there was a great karma preventing him from probing, so he could not see anything. Any last words? After an unknown period of time, the Emperor Corpse's origin blood essence was finally burned out, and his life was truly coming to an end. Thank you? This time, it was not the Emperor Corpse that spoke, but the primordial spirit imprint at the beginning. He was thanking Chu Bei, as though he had been freed. 1-1. The golden disk flew across the sky, and the center of the disk was facing the pile of Emperor corpse, and a powerful suction force surged out. Crunch, crunch! A mouth appeared in the disk, and it was chewing the Emperor corpse's flesh, smacking its lips in enjoyment. It's over. It's really over. Looking at the golden disk, the experts in the distance subconsciously swallowed their saliva and muttered to themselves. The experts from different space-time and ancient immortal kings stared blankly at Chu Bei and the resplendent golden bowl in the sky, and their faces were filled with shock. They had followed him all the way from the Realm Sea Dam, witnessed him stepping on the path of darkness, destroying countless guidance ancient palaces, and also saw him fight against Emperor Tsang, Grand Emperor, and Emperor Yu. At first, they thought that his cultivation was roughly the same as Emperor Tsang and the other two, or perhaps slightly stronger, until the grey-robed elder appeared. Unexpectedly, he was actually a true immortal emperor. After that, they continued to follow and came to the ancient final destination, and personally witnessed the outcome of the battle between the two emperors. They had experienced countless great eras, and their mental states had long become unperturbed, but following him all the way made their emotions rise and fall, difficult to calm down. Everything was too shocking. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Under the gazes of the experts, Chu Bei put away the golden disk, and his eyes indifferently swept over the collapsed realm sea. His hands interweaved, and endless runes flew out from his palms, flying towards various parts of this great region. Amidst rumbling sounds, the collapsed realm sea was restored, and the endless star fields began to recover one after another. In immortal domain, those cultivators who were corroded by darkness gradually recovered their consciousness, and the bodies of the dead cultivators reformed, and their souls gathered once more. I didn't die? I remember being killed by the creatures of darkness. What happened? I'm alive! I'm alive! This is really too great! It's Senior Chu! All of this is because of Senior Chu! It's him who revived our companions! Seeing their companions who had fought side by side come back to life, Immortal Domain's cultivators cried out in excitement, and then they all kowtowed towards Chu Bei in the image in the sky. Master, that is? Yi Fan stepped on the river of time and arrived in front of Chu Bei, pointing at the hole above the ancient final destination, and couldn't help but ask. There were black drops of blood floating in the hole, and the aura made his heart palpitate, terrifying to the extreme. Chapter 502. At the limits of Realm Sea, including Without Beginning, Vicious, Willow Deity, Butcher, Shihao and the others, when they heard Yi Fan's question, they all gave the cave entrance a look. Then they looked towards Chu Bei, their eyes carrying confusion and curiosity. The path that leads above high heavens. When his calm voice sounded, Chu Bei nodded towards Yi Fan and Shihao. Then, with his hands behind his back, he flew towards the cave entrance where the black blood droplet was rising and falling. Hurry and look! It's a living creature! The instant Chu Bei entered the cave entrance, the experts on ancient final Earth all opened their mouths in shock. They only saw that the cave entrance immediately seemed to have come alive. Scarlet blood water appeared, slowly flowing about like a river, like a lake, but also like a sea. In the blood water, countless great graves floated about, every single great grave releasing a terrifying aura. The weakest was at the Immortal King level. Chu Bei stood on the blood water, colorful ripples curling about the surface of his body. His hands were behind his back, calmly sweeping his eyes over his surroundings. Following a cold shout, the great graves in the blood water that were originally moving towards him immediately drifted into the distance. Faint cries of fear could be heard from within the great graves. Pun! Chu Bei's fist smashed out. Following an explosive noise, the enormous cave entrance collapsed, splitting into pieces. You still haven't died completely? Right at this time, that black blood droplet trembled intensely, swaying crazily. An ice-cold voice full of dignity sounded from within. Immediately afterwards, the terrifying blood water began to stir. One could only see countless great graves explode one after another. Berserk creatures began to rush out, carrying incomparably terrifying auras. They released strange cries from their mouths. It wasn't just these graves. Countless creatures began to appear from the blood water as well. Could those be creatures from above high heavens? Ruthless and Boundless muttered to themselves as they watched the scene unfold before them. As for the butcher, Willow Deity, and a few other experts who didn't know what was going on, they all revealed looks of shock. Pun! Chubei punched out again, and the black drop of blood exploded. Boundless dark aura swept out. The dark matter was even more terrifying than the aura released by the Emperor Corpse, but soon, the dark aura was shattered into nothingness by the colorful ripples released by Chubei. How dare you! That cold and dignified voice sounded again. Bang! Chubei's expression remained unchanged as he punched out a third time. This time, the hole disappeared, and a bright path that led to an unknown place appeared. A corpse actually has such strength! Suddenly, a figure walked over from the end of the resplendent path. It was a middle-aged man dressed in a brocade robe. The moment he arrived, the blood water below began to churn, and blood-colored water tornadoes shot up into the sky. The middle-aged man glanced at the ancient final destination below. His sharp gaze swept across the experts below as he gradually frowned. Who is this person? Could it be that it's from above the heavens? What kind of place is that? Not good, my power has been sealed by him. How is that possible? It's just a ray of light from his eyes. His aura is even stronger than the old man of annihilation. The experts shuddered when they met the middle-aged man's gaze, and then fear appeared on their faces. A terrifying force shot out from the middle-aged man's eyes and penetrated their bodies in an instant, sealing their immortal force and preventing them from moving. Just as the experts were looking at the middle-aged man on the resplendent path in astonishment, the middle-aged man suddenly exclaimed in surprise. The Emperor Corpse has disappeared! The middle-aged man seemed to have noticed something, and a strange look flashed through his eyes. However, he soon muttered to himself. That's right, after countless epochs, it's time for it to disappear completely. Are you delusional enough to think you can leave this place? I'm the overseer of this place, and I'm suppressing this place. Don't even think about it. If you don't leave, don't blame me for killing all of you here. The middle-aged man's voice was cold and dignified. The seal is gone, I've regained my freedom. Is the place he's referring to the world we're in right now? Then where is he going when he says he's leaving? Above the heavens? The group of experts did not leave. They looked at each other, and then turned their gazes to Chubei on the other side. At this moment, the middle-aged man also noticed Chubei's existence. His face turned solemn as soon as he took a look. He did not sense the existence of this person with his divine consciousness. However, his eyes told him that this person was right in front of him and had been there since before he arrived. Were you the one who attacked just now? The middle-aged man frowned and fixed his eyes on Chubei as he questioned him. Chubei looked at the middle-aged man and smiled. He did not answer the middle-aged man's question, and he clenched his fist and was about to attack again. How dare you! Seeing this, the middle-aged man immediately shouted. With overflowing anger, he instantly blocked in front of Chubei. In an instant, the golden light on the resplendent path below surged. The living beings in the blood below screamed in terror and fled immediately. The middle-aged man attacked. A broad saber appeared, and the blade carried emperor runes. It swept across and targeted Chubei. The cold saber light surged like waves and spread into the distance. The experts on the ancient final ground, such as Tu Fu, Willow Deity, and the other first-stage quasi-immortal emperors, felt a chill in their hearts. It was an instinctive feeling of fear. Fortunately, the saber light that made their hearts palpitate was not directed at them. Otherwise, with their strength, they would have been turned into nothingness in an instant. However, although it was not directed at them, they still did not have it easy. It was as if their souls and bodies were about to be separated. It was extremely painful. "You're only a perfected quasi-immortal emperor." Chu Bei revealed the middle-aged man's cultivation base. Then, he reached out his hand to meet the broad saber. Clang! With the sound of metal vibrating, Chu Bei used only 2 fingers to clamp down on the blade. At this moment, the terrifying emperor aura on the broad saber disappeared, and the blade could not move an inch further. When he saw this scene, the middle-aged man's eyes narrowed. Before he could react, the broad saber exploded, turning into countless pieces. Immortal! Immortal Emperor! The middle-aged man snapped back to reality. His pupils suddenly contracted, his expression changing greatly. "This great one won't kill you. Just move aside." Chu Bei looked at the middle-aged man indifferently, his voice calm. When this overseer appeared, he didn't kill Yi Fan, Shi Hao, and the others, giving them a path of life, allowing them to leave. Chu Bei was also like this, also giving the other party a path of life. That emperor corpse. The middle-aged man seemed to have thought of something. It was destroyed by this great one. Chu Bei's voice was calm. When he heard Chu Bei's words, the middle-aged man took a deep breath, a bit of restraining fear appearing in his eyes. Then, he moved aside. He was at the consummate level of a half-immortal emperor, number 1 below immortal emperor. However, when facing an immortal emperor, he still didn't have the strength to retaliate, unable to raise any will to fight. Back then, that emperor corpse also came here when it was still alive. However, back then, his cultivation realm wasn't stable enough, and there just happened to be a black drop of blood here, directly corroding it. However, for the person before him, that black drop of blood not only didn't have any effect, it was instead blasted to pieces by the other party. As for the owner of this black drop of blood, even though he was the overseer, he still didn't know his origins. Finally, Chu Bei appeared at the end of the resplendent passage. Meanwhile, at this time, a chaotic and misty world appeared in the line of sight of ancient Final Earth's experts. "Is that above heaven above? I really want to take a look. Say, with our strength, what level do you think we will reach above heaven above?" The group of experts stared rigidly at the end of the resplendent passage, clamoring endlessly. Their faces carried excitement, as if they discovered a new continent. Chu Bei looked at the chaotic world at the end of the passage. Right when he was about to enter, a mysterious resistance forcefully stopped him outside. Even though he was already an immortal emperor, he still couldn't take a step forward. "Host has quelled the source of darkness, opened up heaven above's path. Mission completed. Level 16 commodity authority unlocked. Host's cultivation has increased to the peak of level 16. Host must head to the coiling dragon plane if you wish to unlock level 17. After several fruitless attempts to enter above heaven above, Chu Bei had no choice but to give up. It was also at this moment that the system's voice sounded in his mind. At the same time, Chu Bei's immortal emperor power from the system disappeared, but his own cultivation rose by a large level. With the cultivation system of Perfect World, the peak of level 16 was equivalent to a supreme being at the Mahayana stage. "Master, can you bring us to take a look above heaven above?" Yi Fan pointed at the chaotic world behind the resplendent path, and couldn't help but ask. "When your strength is enough, you can go and take a look yourselves." Chu Bei pretended to be profound. After saying that, he swept his gaze over Yi Fan and Shi Hao. "Master has finished this trip, so it's time for me to leave." As soon as his voice fell, Chu Bei waved his sleeve, and the space-time wheel appeared. Then, under the gazes of countless experts, Chu Bei stepped in and disappeared from everyone's sight. Coiling Dragon World? Chu Bei stood on the great river of time, using his free time to review the Coiling Dragon World. After Chu Bei left, Shi Hao, who was still an ancient final destination, gave the overseer in the sky dome a look, clenching his fists tightly. "The day will come when I defeat you, and then I will enter above the heavens." What qualifications does a trifling immortal king have to say these words? Do you know that even above heaven above, there are only 39 immortal emperors? Forget about immortal emperors, you might not even be able to enter half-immortal emperor. The middle-aged man shot Sir Hao a look of disdain, saying with a cold snort. As a half-immortal emperor at the great circle of the immortal emperor realm who was still a step away, the middle-aged man indeed had the qualifications to look down on Sir Hao. He had seen too many freaks. In the great heavens region behind him, forget about 1,000 years, he had even seen freaks who entered the immortal king realm in 300 years. However, in the end, the other party still couldn't enter half-immortal emperor realm even after countless great eras. In 1,000 years at most, I will come and fight you. Sir Hao looked straight at the middle-aged man. When his indifferent voice sounded, he turned around and left. Then, the butcher, Willow Deity, the fake medicine seller, and the ancient immortal kings all left after giving the middle-aged man a final look. Yi Fan, without beginning, Vicious and the other experts from the other space-time also entered the great river of time one after another, returning to their own space-time. Chapter 503. The Coiling Dragon Plain. The Yulon Continent. The Kingdom of Fanlai. Wushan Township. This little town was located in the easternmost part of the kingdom, not far from the mountain range of magical beasts. It wasn't very large, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a large village. The sun rose from the east, and the warm sunlight pierced through the trees, leaving behind mottled spots of light on the bluestone roads. At this moment, on an empty field, a group of children who had just finished their physical training were gathered around a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's name was Hillman. He was the captain of the Baruch clan's guards, and a powerful warrior of the 6th rank. Uncle Hillman, we've all finished our training. You promised to tell us about the legendary 4 supreme warriors. One of the children shook Hillman's arm. All of you, come over here. Hillman waved his hand towards the group of children. His half-exposed upper body was covered with saber scars and sword scars. Wonderful! The group of children immediately sat down in the meditative position, all of them resting their chins on their hands, their eyes filled with eagerness. In our continent, warriors are divided into 9 levels. Above warriors of the 9th rank are the saint-level combatants. There are very few saint-level combatants, but every single one of them is an awe-inspiring, powerful existence. They can cause enormous icebergs to melt, cause boundless seas to roar with rage, cause towering mountains to crumble, cause cities with millions of people to be destroyed, and cause countless meteors to fall from the skies. They are invincible, supreme existences. Speaking to this point, Hillman paused, his gaze sweeping across the group of children. In front of a saint-level combatant, even dozens of warriors of the 9th rank working together are no match for him. The difference in levels isn't something that can be made up for by numbers. However, there are exceptions, and that is the 4 supreme warriors. The so-called 4 supreme warriors are the Dragon Blood warriors, the Violet Flame warriors, the Tiger-striped warriors, and the Undying warriors. When the 4 supreme warriors reach the 9th rank, they have the power to battle against saint-level combatants. When they reach the saint level as well, they become invincible existences amongst the saint-level combatants. Under the gleaming gazes of the group of children, the middle-aged man methodically narrated the stories of the 4 supreme warriors. Uncle Hillman, when do you think I can become a Saint Realm expert? At this time, a 6 or 7-year-old boy stared at Hillman with wide eyes. Young Master Linley, Lord Hogg is calling for you. It seems he has something important to tell you. Before Hillman could answer the boy's question, a plainly dressed man ran over. Father, why are you looking for me? The little boy mumbled and waved at Hillman. In the entire kingdom of Fanlai, you won't be able to find a clan that has existed longer than ours. What? We are a clan of the Dragon Blood warriors. Linley's mind suddenly buzzed. Linley, take a look at these spirit tablets, and see what is written on them. Hogg walked to the counter and selected several spirit tablets. Biting his index finger, he dripped a drop of blood onto each tablet, then handed it to little Linley. Shortly afterwards, the spirit tablets began to be filled with tiny characters, as though they were recording something. Linley accepted the spirit tablet and stared at it. As he did, his frail body suddenly trembled. Baruch. The first dragon blood warrior of the Yulan continent. Year 4560 of the Yulan calendar. Baruch battled against a black dragon and a titanic frost wyrm at the gates of Linan City. In the end, he slew both the titanic frost wyrm and the black dragon, and his fame shook the world. Year 4579 of the Yulan calendar. Baruch battled against a 9-headed serpent emperor at the North Sea. That day, the waves of the sea were unceasing, and the city was destroyed. After a day and night of fierce battle, Baruch finally slew the 9-headed serpent emperor. In the end, he established the Baruch clan, and became the first clan leader. Ryan Baruch. The second dragon blood warrior of the Yulan continent. Year 4690 of the Yulan calendar. In the mountain range of magical beasts, he defeated and subdued a saint-level gold dragon, becoming a gold dragon saint knight. Year 4697 of the Yulan calendar, Hazard Baruch. The third dragon blood warrior of the Yulan continent. Born in year 5360 of the Yulan calendar. In his first battle at the mountain range of the setting sun, he battled a saint-level bloody-eyed maned lion, defeating it and forcing it to flee. His name shook the world. Lord Father, are they really my ancestors? Linley stared in a daze at the records of the spirit tablets. He couldn't help but gulp. After recovering from his shock, the blood in his body began to boil. He had never imagined that his own clan would be one of the legendary 4 supreme warriors, the Dragon Blood Warrior clan. But Lord Father, since our clan is a clan of the Dragon Blood Warriors, how did we end up like this? Are you a Dragon Blood Warrior? After his excitement, little Linley seemed to have realized something, and he immediately asked. Faced with little Linley's questioning gaze, Hogg shook his head, a look of resignation on his face. Sighing, he said, In our Baruch clan, if a descendant wishes to become a Dragon Blood Warrior, the most important thing is the density of the dragon blood in their veins. The higher the density, the higher the chances of becoming a Dragon Blood Warrior. However, after so many generations, the density of the Baruch clan's bloodline has grown thinner and thinner. Slowly, the Baruch clan began to decline. Speaking to this point, Hogg looked expectantly at little Linley. Of course, this isn't absolute. Occasionally, there will be 1 or 2 descendants with a very high density of dragon blood in their veins. Linley, you are already 6 years old. According to the rules of the clan, it is time to test the density of your bloodline. How do you test it? If the density of my bloodline is high, does that mean I can become a Dragon Blood Warrior? Little Linley looked expectantly at Hogg, eager to test it out. This is a dragon blood needle. After speaking calmly, Hogg waved his right hand, and a 20-centimeter long silver needle appeared in his palm. Little Linley glanced at the silver needle. As though he knew what to do, he stretched out his small, white hand. Ancestors, bless us! If the Baruch clan continues to decline, perhaps one day, the Dragon Blood Warrior lineage will cease to exist. Hogg was even more nervous than little Linley. His eyes were fixed on the dragon blood needle, which had already pierced into little Linley's arm. Slowly, the dragon blood needle began to glow with a red light. But this red light lasted for less than 5 seconds before suddenly dimming, until the red light completely disappeared. Alas, a faint sigh escaped Hogg's mouth. Daddy, is the density of your child's bloodline not high enough to become a Dragon Blood Warrior? Hearing Hogg's sigh, little Linley raised his head, clenched his fists, and bit down on his lips, as though he was trying hard not to let his tears fall. Seeing little Linley's red eyes, Hogg's heart ached. He immediately held little Linley in his arms, comforting him. Don't be sad. Even if you can't become a Dragon Blood Warrior, as long as you train hard, in the future you'll become a powerful warrior, just like Uncle Hillman. Right. Your child will work even harder. Even if I can't become a dragon blood warrior, I'll still become a powerful warrior. Little Linley rubbed his red eyes, nodding his head heavily. Rumble! Right at this moment, a series of rumbling sounds could be heard. In the next instant, the entire ancestral hall began to shake violently, as though an earthquake had occurred. Tables, chairs, counters, and everything else were all knocked over. Linley, you stay here. Don't go anywhere. Father will go outside and see what's going on. Frowning, Hogg hid little Linley under a thick table, then stumbled out of the ancestral hall. Chapter 504. As soon as Hogg left, the ground began to tremble even more violently, as though an entire army was charging forward. Hey! What's this? Suddenly, with a clang sound, a pitch-black, ring-like object rolled to Linley's feet, covered with a layer of dust. A ring? Linley picked up the object, then rolled up his sleeves and gave it a good rub. Only then did he get rid of the dust on its surface. Seeing the object's true appearance, he murmured to himself. The ring was completely pitch-black. It seemed to be made of wood, but it also seemed to be made of stone. On its surface, the image of a divine dragon was engraved. Lord Father should know about this ring, right? Little Linley mumbled to himself. Just as he was carefully inspecting the pitch-black ring, with a hum sound, the space above him suddenly split open, revealing a pitch-black hole. In the next instant, a figure walked out from the hole, neither too fast nor too slow. It was a man, dressed in a long green robe. Mission 1. The host shall sign a contract with Linley. The green-robed man was naturally Chu Bei. As soon as he emerged from the space-time wheel, the system's voice rang out in his mind. You, who are you? Why have you appeared in my clan's ancestral hall? Little Linley stared in terror at the figure who had appeared out of nowhere. His body shrank backwards, his little face filled with vigilance. Hearing the voice, Chu Bei turned to look. When he saw little Linley, he was startled at first, but when he saw the ring in Linley's hand, a hint of a smile appeared on his face. Little Linley? Chu Bei asked tentatively. How do you know my name? Also, how did you come out from there? Hearing Chu Bei call out his name, Linley grew even more vigilant. At the same time, he didn't forget to point towards the hole behind Chu Bei, which had yet to be closed. Kid, don't be afraid. You and I are connected by destiny, so I've come to give you an opportunity. Look at that ring in your hand. Didn't I give it to you? Chu Bei pointed at the pitch-black ring in Linley's hand and laughed calmly. It's yours? Hearing Chu Bei's words, Linley lowered his head to look at the ring in his hand. You can call it the coiling dragon ring. Chu Bei leisurely walked towards Linley. Don't come over. Seeing Chu Bei draw closer, Linley retreated yet again. Little guy, you don't believe what I said, do you? Why don't you drip some blood onto the coiling dragon ring on your finger? Chu Bei paused. Linley hesitated for a moment. Biting his forefinger, he dripped some blood onto the coiling dragon ring. In an instant, the originally dark ring blossomed with a gorgeous light, and it actually flickered with a layer of hazy light. Gradually, the hazy light and shadow solidified until it turned into an amiable old man in a moon-white robe with white hair and beard. You! Who are you? Staring at the image of the white-haired old man floating out of the ring, little Linley's pupils contracted. Little doll, was it you who woke me up from my slumber? The white-haired old man sized up Linley, then said, My name is Doran Cowart, a saint-level Grand Magus of the Powant Empire. Today, I am the ring's spirit of this ring. Powant Empire? The Powant Empire that was destroyed 5,000 years ago. And you said you are a saint-level Grand Magus. Linley stared at Doran Cowart in disbelief, so much so that he completely forgot about Chu Bei's existence. His head was buzzing. What? You don't believe me? Doran Cowart laughed as he looked at Linley. But isn't this ring his? Linley stretched out his hand and pointed at Chu Bei. At this moment, Doran Coward turned his attention to Chu Bei. Frowning, he let out a cold snort. "Little fellow, you can't make jokes like this. 5,000 years ago, I acquired this ring. How can it be yours? Is the little fellow you speak of referring to me?" Chu Bei stared intently at Doran Coward, his face slowly turning cold. His calm voice emanated a terrifying aura that was filled with majesty. Sensing that terrifying aura, Doran Coward's body trembled. Instantly, a look of deep terror appeared in his eyes. You are. Doran Coward's body trembled. In this moment, it was as though he had been strangely imprisoned. He couldn't even return to the coiling dragon ring. When he looked at Chu Bei again, his eyes were filled with terror. Year 4280 of the Yulan calendar. You battled with Saint-level Grand Magus Hamlin. Who knew that another Saint-level warrior would secretly ambush you? In the end, you were defeated, but you sealed your soul within this coiling dragon ring of mine. Chu Bei calmly recounted Doran Coward's past. How do you know? Can it be that you really are the owner of this ring? Hearing Chu Bei's words, aside from fear, Doran Coward's face was now filled with deep shock. His battle with Hamlin had occurred 5,000 years ago. In addition, given his opponent's temperament, there was no way he would tell the outside world that he had joined forces with another Saint-level combatant to ambush him. For this reason, only the three of them should know about this battle. But who would have thought that the person in front of him would know? As he saw it, perhaps the person in front of him really was the owner of the coiling dragon ring, and had some sort of close connection to it. This was why he had been able to learn about their battle through the coiling dragon ring. In addition, from the aura emanating from this person, he had definitely surpassed the saint level. He had most likely become a deity. You will find out who I am in the future. Chu Bei glanced calmly at Doran Coward. After removing the pressure from Doran Coward visibly relaxed and let out a long breath. Why did you give this ring to me? Linley swallowed, looking at Chu Bei with growing nervousness. Although he wasn't very old, from the conversation between these two, he could tell that these two were monstrous freaks who had lived for 5,000 years or more. I was passing by this place and felt that there was some destiny between us, and so I wanted to take you on as my disciple. Chu Bei crossed his arms, smiling as he looked at little Linley. Take me on as your disciple? Linley was startled. Biting his lip, he pondered for a moment, then said, I'll have to wait for Lord Father to return before making a decision. Big brother, there's a huge monster outside. Right at this moment, little Wharton ran in unsteadily, as though he would fall at any moment. Monster? Linley glanced at Chu Bei, then hurriedly crawled out from under the table and picked up Wharton. Boom, boom, boom! Soon, the ground, which had been stable for a moment, began to tremble once more, and in a rhythmic manner, as though an enormous creature was marching towards Baruch's manor. Because Baruch's manor was located in the easternmost part of the town, to the east of the manor was a mountain range. Between the mountain peaks, there was a large, empty space. Right now, this empty space was filled with people, all of them wielding weapons and staring vigilantly into the distance. Big brother, quick, look! It's that monster! As soon as little Wharton was carried out of the manor by Linley, his chubby little hands pointed towards the mountain range. It was a magical beast that was 20 or 30 meters long, and its entire body was covered with fiery red scales. Every single one of its scales gleamed with a cold, metallic light, causing one's heart to tremble. So huge! Can that be a magical beast? The other children in the town couldn't help but run out of their rooms, running to Linley's side. All of them turned their gazes towards that enormous creature. A magical beast of the 7th rank, a Velocidragon. Why would it appear in such a remote place? Recognizing what that enormous creature was, a hint of surprise flashed through Doran Coward's eyes. The 7th rank? Then doesn't that mean it's even more powerful than Uncle Hillman? In Linley's eyes, Hillman was the most powerful warrior in the town, the most powerful person in the town. Why have you kids all come out? Didn't I tell you to stay at home? Right at this moment, a shout could be heard from afar. It was Hillman. "Uncle Hillman, just let us stay here and take a look. It'll be fine." A little girl hugged Hillman's arm and said coquettishly, "Fine. I'll let you take a look. But remember, no one is allowed to leave my side." After giving the order to the group of children, Hillman turned to look at Chu Bei. "You aren't from this town, are you? I've never seen you before." As for Doring Cowart, he had already returned to the coiling dragon ring. Even though he was within the ring, he was still aware of what was happening in the outside world. "Uncle Hillman, he's just passing by. He wants to take me on as his disciple." Linley hid behind Hillman, still wary of Chu Bei. "Take you on as his disciple?" Hearing Linley's words, Hillman carefully sized up Chu Bei. Slowly, a frown appeared on his face. But just as he was about to ask something, the sounds of an intense battle could be heard from the direction of the mountains, as well as a terrifying roar. "Quick, look! They're fighting! There seems to be someone on the back of that magical beast. Good heavens! That person was actually able to tame a Velocidragon of the 7th rank. How terrifyingly powerful must he be!" Linley and the other children all cried out in shock. Even Hillman couldn't help but hold his breath as he stared intently at the distant battlefield. There were a total of 7 people battling the Velocidragon. From the looks of it, there were 5 warriors and 2 magi. Of the 7, the leader was a muscular man with short red hair. Beneath him was a pitch-black iron bull. "Don't make any pointless struggles." The figure on the back of the Velocidragon spoke calmly, his voice cold and indifferent. "Fight to the death!" The 7 simultaneously called out. "Then die!" The magus on the back of the Velocidragon shook his head. As his calm voice rang out, he reached out with his right hand and gently patted the Velocidragon. "Roar!" Instantly, the Velocidragon raised its head to the sky and roared. Opening its mouth, an incomparably large column of flame shot out towards the 7 people. Crackle! 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 Wherever the column of flame passed, the previously empty ground was instantly scorched black. In some places, because of the expansion and contraction of the heat, the ground began to crack. "Not good! The fire is spreading. Everyone, retreat! Good heavens! If we were to be burned by those flames, we'd instantly turn to ash." Hogg and the others, who were already at the front, saw the raging flames. Their faces changed, and they hurriedly retreated. Soon, Hogg and the others had all retreated to where Chu Bei, Hillman, and the others were. "Quick, retreat! They're attacking!" At the edge of the clearing, Hillman's eyes suddenly narrowed, and he immediately led the group of children in retreat. Rumble! The fierce battle that had been taking place at the base of the mountain range of magical beasts suddenly began to move towards Wushan Township. Amidst the roars of the Velocidragon, the houses on both sides of the street began to tremble even more violently. In the blink of an eye, the battle between the 7 people and the Velocidragon had reached the town. Chapter 505. As the battle grew more and more intense, one house after another was reduced to rubble. Even the stone pavement was blown apart by the intense heat. During this process, the townspeople began to scream in terror. Under Hogg's lead, they all ran towards the west side of the town, their faces filled with terror. Dance of the Flaming Serpents! Suddenly, the Velocidragon ceased its attacks. The magus on its back leapt into the air, his hands dancing in a rhythmic pattern. With a cold voice, 7 fire serpents, each dozens of meters long, began to coalesce in front of him. Upon closer inspection, each of the fire serpents seemed to be alive. Their scales were clearly defined, and their enormous size made one's heart tremble. The 7 fire serpents circled in the air above the town, burning half the sky red. In the blink of an eye, the temperature of the entire Wushan Township rose by dozens of degrees, as though it had become a giant oven. Dance of the Flaming Serpents! a spell of the 8th rank. That old man is actually a magus of the 8th rank. Staring at the 7 giant fire serpents in the air above the town, Hillman's face changed. He couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. When he looked at the old man again, his eyes were filled with dread. Of the same rank, a magus of the 8th rank had a far higher status than a warrior of the 8th rank. This was because on the battlefield, a magus of the 8th rank was equivalent to a large-scale killing machine. In the entire kingdom of Funlai, the number of magi of the 8th rank could be counted on 2 hands. Why would a magus of the 8th rank appear in a small, remote town like ours? Hogg frowned, his face solemn. Lord Father, I can't become a dragon blood warrior, but I can become a magus. I can become as powerful as him. Little Linley stared at the 7 giant fire serpents, his eyes seeing stars. Witnessing the scene on the battlefield, everyone in the town was stunned. Not good. Quick, run! The leader of the squad of 7 seemed to have sensed the terrifying aura hidden within the fire serpents, and he immediately began to shout. Do you think you can run? Accept the baptism of death! The old man's cold voice was like a bone-piercing knife, stabbing into the hearts of the 7 men. In the next instant, with a loud boom, the 7 giant fire serpents descended from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the houses in the town began to burn wildly. The flames rose to the heavens. It was a scene of disaster. Lord Hogg, our homes are gone. Looking at the raging flames, the residents who had already arrived at the edge of the town felt a sense of sorrow. On the battlefield, the 7 fire snakes shot out by the old man were like living creatures. Each of them quickly found a target and charged toward it. Ah! Amidst the shrill screams, 7 fire snakes could be seen chasing after the 7 members of the team. First, the 2 female magicians were engulfed by the fire snakes, then the 4 warriors, and finally the leader of the team. Dead, all dead! Staring at the 7 charred corpses, the townspeople all gulped, staring in terror at the magus of the 8th rank on the back of the Velocidragon. Rumble! The earth trembled once more. In the space of a few breaths, the Velocidragon carried the old man over to the 7 corpses. What a waste of time! The old man glanced at the 7 corpses with disdain. He waved his hand and a purple diamond with a dreamy halo flew out from the ashes of the leader's corpse. It really is the De Barrow Shadow Diamond. This trip was worth it! The old man appraised the brick in his hand, then laughed loudly. His gaze fell upon Hogg, Hillman, and the others. Sensing the old man's gaze, the townspeople all lowered their heads, not daring to make a sound. Their faces were filled with terror. Whose territory is this? The old man put away the De Barrow Shadow Diamond and said calmly, Mighty Lord Magus, Wishan Township is my territory. Hearing the old man's question, Hogg stepped forward and clasped his hands in a very respectful manner. In this battle, your town lost quite a bit of money. These corpses should have some gold coins on them. Consider them my compensation. Hearing these words, the townspeople all let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed as though this mighty magus of the 8th rank wouldn't kill any more people. But just as they were feeling relieved, the old man suddenly frowned. His gaze fell on Linley. Eh? Kid, what's that in your hand? Give it to me. The old man loved to collect rare treasures. When he sensed the strange energy ripples from the coiling dragon ring, he immediately had an idea. Grandpa Magus, I can't give this ring to you. Little Linley gripped the coiling dragon ring with both hands. I've never failed to get anything I want. Hearing Linley's reply, the old man's face changed, and he let out a cold snort. Linley, stop messing around! Hurry up and give the ring to this mighty magus! Hogg and Hillman had noticed Linley's coiling dragon ring as well. After hearing Linley's reply, a look of panic appeared on their faces. They hurriedly began to shout. Dad, Uncle Hillman, this ring isn't mine. And Dellen lives inside it. What a dawdling little brat! The old man seemed to have grown impatient. With another cold snort, he waved his hand, and a flaming serpent came crashing down from above. Mighty Lord Magus, he's still a child. I'll give the ring to you right now. Seeing the enormous flaming serpent come crashing down from above, Hog's face changed, filled with panic. Even a warrior of the 7th rank wasn't able to withstand a single blow from the flaming serpent. If it really came crashing down, most likely all of the townspeople would be reduced to ash in an instant. But no matter how Hog begged, the old man didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. "100 blade strikes!" Hillman leapt into the air, unsheathing the long blade at his waist and chopping viciously towards the flaming serpent. With a piercing sound, a ray of blade energy shot out, sweeping towards the flaming serpent. Bang! But in an instant, the flaming serpent swallowed up the blade energy and smashed Hillman into the ground, creating a deep crater. "Lord Hillman!" all of the townspeople and children called out. "A mere ant! You overestimate yourself!" The old man didn't even glance at Hillman, who was lying in the crater. His expression was one of arrogance. Then, the old man controlled the enormous flaming serpent to continue its descent, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. "No, don't!" The townspeople's voices were filled with terror. The scorching heat had already caused their skin to begin to bleed. Some of the more cowardly children fell to the ground on their buttocks and began to bawl. Boom! However, just as the enormous flaming serpent was about to swallow Linley, Hog, and all of the townspeople, a dazzling fist shot out from within the crowd, smashing apart the enormous flaming serpent as easily as smashing rotten wood. "Who is it?" The enormous flaming serpent had been smashed apart by the fist. The face of the old man on the back of the Velociraptor sank. His sinister gaze swept across the crowd as he let out a shout. "Where did that fist come from? Lord Hog, was it you who saved us?" At the same time, all of the townspeople turned their heads to look around. In the end, all of their gazes fell upon Hog. "Many thanks to you, Master, for saving our lives. Master, please show yourself." Hog hurriedly clasped his fists towards the people around him, speaking words of gratitude. "You were able to block one, but let's see if you can block 6 at the same time." The old man waved his robes and let out a cold snort. The 6 enormous flaming serpents in the air swung their savage maws, hissing as they swooped downwards. Everywhere they passed, the air was scorched and distorted, emitting a terrifying sizzling sound. Bang! 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 This time, when the 6 enormous flaming serpents were still some distance away from the townspeople, 6 fist shadows suddenly appeared. Just like before, the flaming serpents were destroyed as easily as dried twigs. "So it was you!" Seeing the person who had attacked, Hog frowned. He had actually been standing right next to him. If his memory served him right, this person had been by his side from the very beginning. Could it be that he was the one who saved us? "Hey! Who is he?" "I don't know him. He's not from our town." To be able to block the dance of the flaming serpents from a magus of the 8th rank, he should be of the 8th rank as well. After confirming that Chu Bei was their savior, the townspeople hurriedly went forward to express their thanks. "Dad, this coiling dragon ring was given to me by him." He even said that he wanted to take me on as his disciple. Chu Bei pointed at Hog with his little finger as he spoke. "Haha, it seems I was right. This ring really is a treasure." Without waiting for Hog to speak, the voice of the old man on the back of the Velociraptor once more rang out. "Hand over the ring, and I'll spare your lives." The old man's face was gloomy. His cold gaze swept past Linley, finally coming to rest upon Chu Bei. "Idiot." Chu Bei shook his head, a playful look on his face as he looked at the old man, as though he was looking at an idiot. "You're looking for death." Hearing Chu Bei's words, and seeing the playful look in his eyes, the old man's face instantly turned green. "Vairocana!" With a shout filled with murderous intent, the old man began to chant an incantation, his hands moving in a rhythmic pattern. In the next instant, the air around the old man's body began to emit layers of flames, which then coalesced in front of his palms, forming into an enormous fireball with a diameter of 100 meters. No, no. Staring at the sun-like fireball, the townspeople, including Hogg, once more revealed looks of terror on their faces. This is the most powerful fire-style spell of the 8th rank. Hillman's entire body was covered with scorch marks. With great difficulty he crawled out of the deep pit. But upon seeing the enormous fireball above his head, his heart instantly turned cold. Go to hell. Under the old man's control, the enormous fireball, carrying with it a terrifying amount of fire-style energy, descended. Sensing the energy contained within the fireball, Hogg's face instantly turned extremely ugly. If this 100-meter-wide fireball was allowed to descend, the entire Wushan township would most likely be reduced to rubble in an instant. So this is a magus of the 8th rank? How terrifying. Staring at the increasingly large fireball, all the townspeople's faces turned pale. A magus of the 8th rank is nothing more than an ant, but you think you are invincible. As his voice rang out, Chu Bei's body soared into the air, casually flying towards the enormous fireball. Then, he raised his palm and lightly struck it. Boom! Accompanied by a shocking explosion, Chu Bei's seemingly unremarkable palm suddenly burst forth with a berserk aura of energy. This energy formed a blade of light, and in an instant, the enormous scorching fireball was cut into nothingness. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.